Chapter 649. I didn't expect my Tao heart to be so weak. Su Yin sat cross-legged on the Tao comprehension stone. His body glowed and emitted a sacred radiance. He murmured, "My Tao heart has been unstable twice in a row. The previous one almost trapped me inside. This kind of tribulation born from the heart is truly dangerous. External factors will affect my spirit and will." Su Yin hadn't cultivated for a long time. It had only been a few years since he experienced the myriad tribulations. Yet, he had already grown to this stage and even comprehended the power of myriad Taos. Su Yan's progress was too fast. His Tao heart wasn't stable enough. If Su Yan's Tao heart wasn't stable enough, how could he reach the realm of experts in the future? This caused Su Yan's back to break out in cold sweat. However, after experiencing this dangerous situation, Su Yan's Tao heart soared. He had more faith in himself, his Tao heart, and his own path. This tribulation was of great help to Su Yin. He realized that his Tao skills had increased imperceptibly. Comprehending the Tao was also cultivating the heart. This made Su Yin sigh. Tao cultivation was difficult. Comprehension alone wasn't enough. It also required great perseverance. At the same time, he was very surprised. He hadn't heard about the Big Dipper Pagoda's trials from Star Element and the rest. Star Element and the rest probably didn't know about the Big Dipper Pagoda's abilities. After all, the Big Dipper Pagoda had been dormant for an entire universe era. Su Yin was the first to come in contact with it in this universe era. After going through the trials, he came to the conclusion that it was too dangerous. It tested one's Tao heart. This kind of tribulation was extremely harmful. If one wasn't careful, they would become a walking corpse. However, Su Yin didn't know how many more trials there were. He also didn't know how much time had passed outside. How can I leave? The way to leave should be to complete all the trials. Perhaps this will activate the Big Dipper Pagoda. Su Yin thought seriously. Even if he went out now, it would be useless. He wouldn't be of much help. He might as well come in contact with the Big Dipper Pagoda. As long as he could control the #1 treasure of the Big Dipper Star region, it would be of great help to Hokuto. Only then could he help Hokuto withstand this calamity. Buzz. Su Yan's eyes were wide open as he continued to gaze at the starry sky. In his eyes, the starry sky continued to grow grander and stronger. Everything became extremely terrifying. It was as if it had a life of its own and was deducing the great Tao that belonged to him. Can one break out just by comprehending the starry sky, great Tao? Su Yin thought to himself. However, he felt that even if he continued to try, it would take a long time. He didn't have much time to waste. Why should I choose its path? The main path is clearly under my feet. I want to walk on my own. I can't be led by it and interfere with my cultivation. I can definitely get out, definitely. Su Yan's eyes glowed with a strong conviction. He was paying attention to the evolution of the cosmos with a new perspective. He was going to forge his own path. Currently, the battle in the Big Dipper constellation had progressed to an unimaginable level. More and more people were watching the battle, but they no longer dared to approach the Big Dipper constellation. They could only stand in other constellations and observe the battle through their spatial treasures. However, in the vast starry sky, all sorts of terrifying collisions were emitted. Loud noises shook the heavens and caused the stars to tremble. The scene made everyone's hair stand on end. This was the Divine King fighting a bloody battle. Moreover, it wasn't just one Divine King fighting a bloody battle. This kind of battle could only happen a few times in the universe, but this time, the battle in the Big Dipper constellation was simply too terrifying. Boom! It was as if two small universes had collided. The all-encompassing Divine King's aura was released. All sorts of resplendent lights were born, affecting the starry sky within 1,000,000 miles. It was a terrifying scene of heroes collapsing and the sun and moon sinking. Kill! The barbaric man let out a loud roar. Yiling Tian was in his prime and stood in his golden years. The essence blood in his body was burning like a divine furnace that could burn the world. Its light illuminated half of the Big Dipper constellation. The aura it emitted was truly terrifying. Meanwhile, Zhu Cheng, who was fighting against him, unleashed a terrifying attack. Zhu Cheng was the youngest divine king of the Ancestral Hall and was highly regarded by the Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor. Moreover, he was born with a powerful physique, and his cultivation was unfathomable. He was an expert with high hopes of crossing over to the realm of Almighty. Both Yi Lingtian and Zhu Cheng were top-notch characters among the young divine king. They fought fiercely, causing all sorts of destructive collisions to explode and resound throughout the star system. It was as if they were about to destroy the ancient star systems and sink the sea of stars. As for the Kuan family's old patriarch, Kuan Sangyu, he was once a famous expert in the primal chaos ruins. Within the divine king's domain, he also possessed shocking battle prowess. Although he wasn't in his golden years, Kuan Sangyu's battle prowess was still peerless. The one confronting him was shockingly Su Dalong. He erupted with the roars of dragons and tigers. With a loud roar, he spat out millions of true dragons which filled the sky and rushed towards Kuan Sangyu. Kuan Sangyu wielded a black spear and unleashed the aura of the divine king as he engaged in a fierce battle with Su Dalong. These four godly kings were the strongest of the strongest. Their battle prowess was monstrous, and they were the strongest in the universe. It could be said that if the Almighties didn't appear, they were invincible and terrifying bosses. Of course, the most eye-catching was Xiaohou. The vast Big Dipper was trembling. If it weren't for the Big Dipper's hardness, it wouldn't have been able to withstand their battle. Boom! The translucent bone club descended from the sky with monstrous might. It smashed down with an unstoppable force. Even the divine king's weapon couldn't withstand it and was about to explode. This sect's supreme treasure was one of the greatest treasures of the Zhongyu race. In Xiaohou's hands, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. What a terrifying expert! He's fighting two divine kings without falling into a disadvantageous position. The chief elders of Hokuto were all alarmed. No one doubted that even a heavenly deity would suffer a grievance when that club smashed down. Xiaohou's figure grew taller and taller. This was an invincible king who was emitting a monstrous aura. His hair danced wildly in the wind like a peerless demon god. The moment the translucent bone club came crashing down, a loud boom echoed throughout the sky. Many great stars in the universe exploded along with it. Xiaohou was fairly powerful and tyrannical. He wasn't afraid, even when facing the two divine king of the Kuan family and divine king Zhu Yonghua. The battle prowess in his body surged to the heavens and was suffused with an invincible aura as he went up to fight. At the same time, Xiaohou had been paying attention to the Big Dipper pagoda. He was very clear about the difficulty of a top-grade stone pagoda. The death rate was extremely high. Now, he was guarding this place to prevent them from interfering with the Big Dipper pagoda. He was facing the two divine kings in the most domineering manner possible. His attacks contained the will to tear apart the divine king. The battle that was engulfing the Big Dipper star region continued to escalate. The occupation was becoming more and more brutal. Countless people died. Corpses fell from the sky continuously. Many of the corpses were shattered in the process. The two armies clashed. Their battle auras and killing intent surged. If it weren't for the appearance of Xiaohou and the other two, destroying the three great region gates and crippling the Kuan family's experts and soldiers, this battle would have been exceptionally difficult for Hokuto. Now that the situation had taken a turn for the better, they could hold on. They could even use the geographical advantage of the Big Dipper star region to gain the upper hand. No one knew how long this battle would last. Many of the Kuan family's troops had already charged into the various ancient stars and were slaughtering without restraint. This also caused the battle line to stretch out and affect the entire Big Dipper star region. More and more participants were participating in this battle. Finally, they formed a vast battlefield. Battle cries shook the heavens. The mighty being's holy weapon has been deployed. It's starting to harvest the enemy. The spectators were all shocked. No one was surprised that Hokuto had a mighty being's holy weapon. In fact, it was impossible that they only had one. The moment the mighty being's holy weapon was awakened, its light illuminated the heavens. The blurry power of order was awakened, causing even the heavenly gods to tremble in fear. This was almost equivalent to a heavy, killing weapon on the battlefield. The mighty being's holy weapon had just been deployed on the battlefield. Large numbers of the Kuan family's troops screamed as they were blasted into ashes. Someone saw that in Hokuto's ancestral land, there were experts deploying mighty being's holy weapon and starting a massacre. However, how could the Kuan family watch as the mighty being's holy weapon affected the battle? The Kuan family had also brought along two mighty beings' holy weapons to target Hokuto's ancestral land. They were restraining the storm created by the mighty being's holy weapon and affecting the battle. How good would it be if the Old Star Master came out of seclusion? We have another divine king on our side. It'll be enough to affect the battle. The Kuan family has been plotting against our Big Dipper Star region for a long time. They've opened up huge starry skies formations in many regions, allowing soldiers to pass through in succession. If not for the three divine kings of the buried realm standing out, Hokuto would really be in danger. Some of Hokuto's elders sighed. They had tried many times to summon the Old Star Master, but to no avail. Shang Xuan guessed that the current divine king of Hokuto had probably reached a terrifying bottleneck. It was very likely that he was trying to break through to the next realm. However, this was too difficult. Since ancient times, people had assessed that the divine king's path to becoming a mighty being was extremely difficult. The mortality rate was especially high. This also caused many divine kings to not dare defy the heavens and attempt to break through to the next realm. However, with the Old Star Master's current age, his chances of failure were even higher. However, the Old Star Master no longer had a chance. If he didn't give a shot, he would enter the space-time void and become Hokuto's foundation. However, once Hokuto lost its divine king, it would continue to decline. The Old Star Master wanted to give it a shot, but he didn't know that the Big Dipper Star region was currently facing an unprecedented calamity. Cough! Bamboo Moon's face was pale. She was coughing up blood. Her losses were too severe. She felt that she wouldn't be able to hold Kuan Tianyu for much longer. Haha, beauty, my future wife of the Star Region Master. What's the use of continuing to be stubborn? Don't tell me that I, the great divine king, am not worthy of you? Kuan Tianyu laughed loudly. Ever since the Kuan family's invasion, Kuan Tianyu had been filled with absolute confidence. He had long coveted Bamboo Moon, the Big Dipper fairy whose beauty reigned supreme over the entire star region. He wanted to use this opportunity to hunt her down. Bamboo Moon's eyes were ice cold. She wanted nothing more than to cut Kuan Tianyu in half. However, Bamboo Moon had just stepped into the heavenly god realm. She could only trap him, but she couldn't cause any substantial harm to him. She only hoped that she could buy some time so that Xiaoho and the others could give it their all. She felt that with the three great divine kings of the buried region, they should be able to turn the situation around. However, the situation of the battle changed rapidly. What happened next caused the entire Big Dipper Star region to be filled with strands of blazing aura. When this strand of aura rushed over, it was like a supreme, giant awakening from its slumber. It filled the entire Big Dipper Star region, causing millions of living beings to tremble. Countless cultivators fell to the ground, trembling. Their bodies were about to burst apart. Looks like Hokuto's destruction is a foregone conclusion. This is killing two birds with one stone. Not only will they take over the Big Dipper Star region, but they will also wipe out all the experts of the buried region in one fell swoop. The experts of the surrounding star regions all paled. They discovered that their star regions were being suppressed by a boundless and terrifying aura. This was an aura that was comparable to a supreme being's. It surged out in a vast and mighty manner. Everyone saw an immortal furnace burning, gushing out with the supreme light of order. The heavenly refining furnace has finally arrived. The buried region's race is about to be exterminated. Our race's destiny is about to arrive. Chapter 650. Shameless Bastard. Zhu Yu's heart was filled with anger. but her face was filled with worry. What was to come would come, and there was no avoiding it. Since two divine kings had come to the ancestral hall, it was only a matter of time before the heavenly refining cauldron appeared. Perhaps the Almighty would also join the battle. Hokuto would be in great danger when that day came. Hokuto would have no hope if the ancestral hall's ancestor came to the Big Dipper starfield with the heavenly refining cauldron. Unless some Almighty stepped forward to help, Hokuto's ancestral land wouldn't be able to hold out for long. It's the heavenly refining cauldron. Everyone knew that this was a supreme treasure. There were very few supreme treasures in the universe, and the heavenly refining cauldron was said to be able to refine even a starfield. Its power was difficult to estimate. Now that the heavenly refining cauldron was rushing to the Big Dipper starfield, its goal must be to deal with the buried realm. No matter how strong the three divine kings were, would they stand a chance against the heavenly refining cauldron? Boom! An ocean-like killing intent surged, and a world-burning temperature surged, shaking the sea of stars. Look, the older generation experts cried out. No, run. The legendary heavenly refining cauldron is here. It'll be too late if we don't leave now. The Big Dipper starfield is likely to be riddled with holes and destroyed overnight. Even the gods were terrified as they saw divine light surging into the sky. This was the heavenly refining cauldron's body starting to burn. It was the awakening of an immortal cauldron, surging with billions of layers of light and swirling with the power of order. It stretched out majestically and covered the entire Big Dipper starfield. The scene was too ferocious. The moment the heavenly refining cauldron erupted, the energy ripples that rushed out could burn the sky and split the sea. The great Tao of the universe trembled, and countless celestial bodies along the way were blasted apart by the heavenly refining cauldron. This was a great calamity, an unprecedented calamity aimed at the Big Dipper starfield. Zhu Cheng and Yi Lingtian were fighting fiercely. Both of them were known as the top divine king of the younger generation. Both of them had been injured. They dominated the divine king's battle constitution. Once they started fighting, blood would be spilled from their fists. The power of the divine king kept colliding with each other. Both of them were fighting fiercely. Over time, all parties were injured, but their lives weren't threatened. Normally speaking, such a level of struggle would take a long time to complete. After all, the divine king's accumulation was too astonishing. They were all accumulating the foundation to break through to the supreme realm. Victory and defeat would not be decided in a short period of time. After all, both of them were standing in their golden years and were even powerful enough. It really depended on who had more accumulation and who had greater potential to determine victory and defeat. But now that the heavenly refining cauldron was about to attack, Zhu Cheng let out a long howl. His hair danced in the wind like a waterfall, and his entire body shone with the light of a sea of blood. He flew toward the heavenly refining cauldron in the Big Dipper starfield. If one observed carefully, they would be able to clearly see that the heaven refining cauldron was being driven by the four heavenly gods of the ancestral hall. Now that Zhu Cheng was controlling the heaven refining cauldron, the heaven refining cauldron's aura became even more turbulent, burning the entire sky black. Many of the experts in the battle exploded. The heavenly refining cauldron's might was difficult to control. The Cohen family had also suffered heavy casualties. The great Tao realm experts were annihilated like ants. Heavenly refining cauldron. Yi Lingtian's expression changed slightly. He sent a voice transmission to Su Daolong. Go to the Big Dipper planet immediately. The ancestral hall's actions are too fast. The heavenly refining cauldron has already been opened. I see that the ancestral hall's supreme being is entrenched nearby. If the war breaks out in the Big Dipper starfield, the people will be plunged into misery and suffering. The entire starfield will be scorched. The destructive power of the supreme treasure caused the divine king's expression to turn grave. Yi Lingtian's words were correct. Once things reached this stage, the Big Dipper starfield would be completely destroyed. Hence, The flames of war had to be directed to the Big Dipper planet to ensure that the Big Dipper starfield suffered the least damage. The heavenly refining cauldron is here. What do you think you're running to? Zhu Cheng shouted coldly. As the heavenly refining cauldron flew towards him, the cauldron glowed and emitted a red glow. Rays of light shot out in all directions. Layers of the heavenly refining cauldron's power of order emerged and swooped down on Yi Lingtian. This aura caused Yi Lingtian's expression to turn grave. Even the supreme beings would not underestimate the heavenly refining cauldron and would use all their strength to resist it. Not to mention that he was now the divine king. It would be extremely difficult for him to resist the heavenly refining cauldron's energy source. That terrifying power attacked him. The divine king's field was shattered. Yi Lingtian coughed up blood as his chest was cracked open. The heavenly refining cauldron's power was about to drill into his limbs and bones, evaporating the divine king's blood essence in his body. Scram! Yi Lingtian let out an angry roar. His body burned like the heavenly refining cauldron, exuding an invincible power. He forcefully dispersed the heavenly refining cauldron's power that was attacking him. But as a price, Yi Lingtian's injuries also worsened. Blood spilled out from his chest, and several of his sternum were shattered. The blood essence in his body was faintly declining. It was clear how abnormal this heavenly refining cauldron was. Yi Lingtian did not dare to hesitate. He quickly rushed towards the Big Dipper. With the Divine King's speed, it was too easy for him to rush towards the Big Dipper in a short time. You can't escape. Remnants of the buried region race. You've been running for so long. If I were you, I'd just kill myself. When the Kunkang region saw Su Dalong rushing towards the Big Dipper, he laughed loudly. His eyes were full of mockery and coldness. They knew very well that as long as they could get rid of Su Dalong and the others, there would be no more worries in the future. Although the buried region race also had supreme beings, they felt that the old leader of the buried region race had not appeared for hundreds of years. He did not appear even after such a huge incident at the divine spiritual mountain range. Perhaps the old leader had already passed away. Moreover, they could use this battle to test if the old leader was still alive. If he appeared, then how could the supreme beings of the ancestral hall and the dark underworld race wait? They would definitely hunt down the supreme beings. By then, the outcome would be set. Since you've come, then don't leave. Zhu Cheng's majestic appearance was awe-inspiring. The heavenly refining cauldron floated above his head as he rushed towards the Big Dipper. During the process, the heavenly refining cauldron continued to glow. Millions upon millions of heaven-refining powers flowed down. This was a completely unrestrained attack. Along the way, many of the stars collapsed and turned into dead regions. It would be extremely difficult to repair them even after a long period of time. Zhu Cheng and the Kunkang region both rushed towards the Big Dipper. As long as the three divine king were dealt with, the matter would be settled. Conquering Hokuto was only a matter of time. Of course, the most important thing was to capture Su Yin and take him away. Zhu Cheng was very much looking forward to seeing what secrets Su Yin, who had been coveted by the Ancestral Hall's great ancestor for hundreds of years, was hiding. Boom! The vast Big Dipper was affected by the heavenly refining cauldron's power. The cauldron gushed out vast amounts of heaven-refining power and rushed towards the Big Dipper. For a moment, this ancient star, which used to be the most powerful life form, dimmed and lost its luster. This made people feel pity. Could it be that the Big Dipper was really destroyed? Was it declining day by day and losing its life essence? What hope do you have? Bind yourselves. Continuing to resist will only lead to the extinction of your race. If I were you, I would surrender immediately. The Kunkang region laughed disdainfully. During the process, he used his own life essence to penetrate the heavenly refining cauldron. The divine power required to activate this supreme treasure was too vast. It would be difficult for Zhu Cheng alone to operate the heavenly refining cauldron for a long period of time. The moment the three divine King Xiaoho gathered, Zhu Yongbua and the other severely injured divine king of the Kunkang family retreated. This made Xiahou feel pity. If he had more time, he would definitely be able to kill this divine king of the Kunkang family. Boom! The vast Big Dipper territory trembled violently. Boundless and terrifying heaven-refining power descended from the sky. It was as if the sea of a universe had exploded and poured into the large region. It was about to crush the entire Big Dipper. The Big Dipper is the strongest life ancient star of our race. It's also our strongest foundation. Could it be that ashes to ashes, dust to dust, many elders of Hokuto sighed? The Big Dipper was really not going to make it. If it had been in the previous universe era, the Big Dipper would definitely have awakened on its own and unleashed its strongest life ancient star to resist the heavenly refining cauldron. But now, the heavenly refining cauldron's power had caused the Big Dipper to lose its luster. The star region's origin had collapsed, and the entire star was trembling from the suppression. There's too little time. Suyin might not succeed. He might even face failure. Even if a mighty being came, it would be useless. Only when our Big Dipper star region becomes stronger can we intimidate all races. Bamboo Moon clenched her fists. The situation was imminent. She knew that the Big Dipper Pagoda was related to the Big Dipper. If they could control the Big Dipper Pagoda, they would be able to regain the power of the Big Dipper. Although the Big Dipper might continue to sink, as long as the Big Dipper existed for 1,000 years, or even 100 years, it would be enough to buy time for Hokuto to become stronger. The vast region trembled. Under the influence of the heavenly refining cauldron's power, large numbers of living beings exploded. Countless corpses were strewn everywhere, and rivers of blood flowed. The entire Big Dipper was suppressed to the point of trembling. Even the Big Dipper Pagoda, which towered into the sky, was shaking slightly. This was especially true for the space of inheritance within the Big Dipper Pagoda. This vast starry world was also shaking. Su Yin sat cross-legged on top of the Enlightenment Stone. He was like a banished immortal, observing the evolution of the starry sky, its magnificence and terror, and the process of its continuous growth. This was a great inspiration for Su Yin. He took the opportunity to verify himself. It was similar to the body as the universe. Of course, this was because the initial sutra was like a sutra that could bear any ancient heavenly technique. Buzz! Su Yan's aura gradually became more intense. His body glowed like the furnace of the universe. Tens of thousands of ripples spread out from his body in all directions, giving birth to all living things. This was the initial profound meaning. It had already taken form, and it was just short of reaching the realm of perfection. Time seemed to have returned to the Great Tao Mountain. Back then, the Great Tao Mountain had given Su Yin great inspiration, giving him a path of growth in the future. And now, Su Yin borrowed the power of the starry sky, causing his inner Tao to tremble. His body was burning like the universe. His future path was gradually becoming more and more magnificent. Su Yin was like a grain of sand that was rapidly growing. So what if it was a grain of sand? When it grew stronger, it could still fill the sea, split the sky, rush to the top, and look down on the past, present, and future. Boom! Su Yan's body seemed to have been invisibly magnified thousands of times. It was as if a condensed universe had been released, emitting a boundless aura of the great Tao. It filled the boundless starry sky and forcefully tore the entire space of inheritance apart. Chapter 651. In the starry sky, Su Yan's aura surged. He had comprehended the crux of the matter. Using the changes in the starry sky as a reference, he perfected his own Tao techniques and profundities. For a time, Su Yan's body was suffused with a monstrous aura of the great Tao. It was as if a majestic path had been opened. It covered the sky and covered the earth, and divine light was boundless. Su Yin seemed to be sitting cross-legged on a vast and boundless golden territory. His Tao techniques filled the starry sky, and it was suffused with wisps of unparalleled suppressive force. What was this? This was like a kind of domain, the power of a great Tao domain. It was endless and boundless. The great Tao realm was divided into two stages. The experts in the great Tao realm were called great Tao domain experts. Now, that Su Yin had evolved a unique domain world. It was equivalent to possessing the peak battle prowess of the great Tao realm. Now, Su Yin was sitting cross-legged on the golden path. He was majestic and imposing, and his aura swallowed the starry sky. This was Su Yan's future domain. It was boundless and conformed to the true meaning of the changes in the starry sky. It also contained the profundities of the universe. It was boundless. Only then could it encompass thousands of Tao techniques and help Su Yin perfect the strongest great Tao domain world. Boom! His aura became more and more astonishing. His limbs reached the sky, and his body was like the universe. As he breathed, the surroundings rumbled, and the starry sky shook. The entire starry sky seemed to be on the verge of collapsing along with Su Yan's breathing. One could imagine how strong Su Yin was now. His cultivation had begun to soar greatly. He had perfectly tapped into the effects of his current physical body, causing Su Yan's battle prowess to rise by a level. He sat cross-legged on the golden path. There were all kinds of golden lotuses of the great Tao growing on the golden path. Some are like blazing flames, some are like oceans, some are like stars, some are like the moon, some are like the sun, and some are like true dragons. The golden path was like a great Tao kingdom, rippling with boundless great Tao power. In the past, Su Yin had thought of using the power of his physical body to encompass thousands of great Taos. However, his physical body wasn't strong enough, which led to his failure. Now, Su Yin had comprehended the profundities of domains. Domain was magical. The Divine King's domain was enough to defy the natural order and suppress an ancient life star. Its power was unimaginable. As for the Great Tao domain, it was a unique domain world formed from the form of the Great Tao. It could allow a Great Tao realm cultivator to possess extraordinary means and could easily erupt with extremely powerful battle prowess to suppress powerful enemies. Buzz. The world of the Great Tao boiled, as if it had turned into an abyss of the Great Tao that contained endless power of the Great Tao. As Su Yin recovered, it began to strengthen. One day, they would evolve into their strongest form and construct the domain of the myriad Tao. Once these forms were combined, they would truly be powerful and heaven-defying. As expected, the pressure is getting greater and greater. Su Yin discovered that there was a suffocating pressure coming from the starry sky. It was as if the starry sky had turned into a map of the Tao, and it began to suppress Su Yin. In the process, he felt as if he was being imprisoned in a prison of the Great Tao and was about to be crushed into pieces. Why does this place look so similar to the Stone Tower? What exactly is the Big Dipper Tower? Su Yin mumbled in his heart as he recalled his experience when he first came to the Z-Way segmentum. He had endured the tempering of his body in the Stone Tower before finally enduring it. No matter what its origins were, the Big Dipper Tower was of great help to Su Yin, allowing him to evolve his great Tao domain. This was of great help to Su Yin now, saving him a lot of time and effort in cultivation. The transformation of the starry sky was very close to the transformation of the universe. Although he hadn't cultivated it to the form that Su Yin wanted, it was enough to help him. Immediately after, Su Yin discovered that the starry sky was trembling slightly as if it was being disturbed by an external force, causing the starry sky to show signs of cracking. Something has happened outside. His expression changed. After all, even the Divine King couldn't shake the Big Dipper Tower. But now, such an unforeseen event was happening in the space of inheritance, causing Su Yan's expression to turn ugly. He was thinking that perhaps a supreme being had charged into the Big Dipper segmentum. The first thing that came to his mind was the ancestral palace. I want to go out. Su Yan's eyes widened in anger as he erupted with the strongest form of his great Tao domain. He wanted to pass the test of the starry sky as soon as possible and control the Big Dipper Tower. Only then could he help Hokuto deal with the crisis of extinction. Rumble. Su Yin pushed the golden great Tao, causing thousands of Tao techniques to boil. His aura was boundless and astonishing. The great Tao domain emitted a shocking source of energy that began to radiate toward the entire starry sky. There was indeed a great change happening outside. The arrival of the heavenly refining cauldron was no less than a supreme being killing his way into the battlefield. This change was enough to change the course of the battle. If the battlefield hadn't shifted to the Big Dipper, the damage to the Big Dipper segmentum would be incalculable. Ah, you demons! The Big Dipper seemed to have turned into a purgatory as the heavenly refining cauldron attacked. With the strength of this supreme treasure, the power of the heavenly refining cauldron was enough to affect the entire Big Dipper. Too many people died, and it was a tragic sight. Many creatures were even refined into ashes. This was too tragic. The Big Dipper had become a purgatory, a forbidden zone for all life, a demonic land that bled. Putting aside the divine king who had arrived, with the power of the heavenly refining cauldron, it might really be able to refine the Big Dipper into ashes. The premise was that the Big Dipper was no longer able to hold on. It had lost the power of the most powerful ancient star. Rumble. Divine light blazed between heaven and earth, and millions of strands of scarlet light poured down like the collapse of the universe. Radiant light, filled with the supreme aura of refining the universe's stars, poured out from the mouth of the heavenly refining cauldron. All of this rushed toward Xiahou and the other two. Zhu Cheng wanted to use the heavenly refining cauldron to wipe out the three divine kings completely. He believed that the heavenly refining cauldron had the power to do so. Roar! Su Dalong and the other two roared toward the sky. Each of their aura was more astonishing than the last. They all had the postures of peerless powerhouses, dominating the starry sky. The three divine kings worked together and erupted with a terrifying divine king domain to resist the descending domain of the heavenly refining cauldron. Can the three divine kings withstand the power of the heavenly refining cauldron? The elders of Hokuto didn't have much hope. The heavenly refining cauldron was too powerful. Even the supreme experts had to be careful when dealing with it, let alone the three divine kings. Why aren't they leaving? If I were them, I would withdraw from the Big Dipper star field. There might be a chance of escape on the way. Someone said, causing the others to sigh. Didn't you see? The three of them are standing in front of the Big Dipper star pagoda. Their goal is Su Yan. If the three divine kings withdraw, the Big Dipper star pagoda will shatter, and Su Yan's life will be in danger. I really don't know how great Madman Su's potential is. He actually made the Ancestral Hall use all sorts of methods to capture him alive. The three divine kings will definitely try their best to protect Su Yan, but I don't think there's much hope. Some people were speechless. They were watching the battle from afar, but they could still feel the blazing brilliance emitted by the heavenly refining cauldron. It was as if a giant in the universe was awakening, gushing out a red glow that overflowed into the sky. The three divine kings withstood the boundless power of the heavenly refining cauldron, but they were also beaten by the cauldron's power. Blood flowed from the corners of their mouths, and the bodies of the divine kings were staggering. It was clear how destructive the blow was. Futile struggle. The more you guys are like this, the more important Su Yan is. Zhu Cheng shouted coldly. His large hand shook violently, and the heavenly refining cauldron hung upside down. The cauldron's mouth was like an immortal cave that could swallow an entire star field. As it breathed, it emitted millions of strands of red light, causing the great Tao to tremble and the sun and moon to crack. Everything was reduced to ashes under the influence of the heavenly refining cauldron. Some people saw that the sky above the Big Dipper was filled with immortal cauldrons that were about to swallow the three divine kings. Little brat, when Grandpa was roaming the universe, you were still drinking milk. You want to kill us? Brat, are you dreaming? Xiahou roared angrily. The aura of the three divine kings erupted and rushed into the heavens. He suddenly threw out the Big Bone Club, and under the joint operation of the three divine kings, this sparkling and translucent bone club was like a demonic god whose shackles had been severed. The aura it emitted was incomparably terrifying. Buzz! The big bone club burned and lay horizontally in the sky. It erupted with an ancient power and transmitted all kinds of grand scripture sounds. People were shaken. They discovered that some vicious beasts, giant birds, and even creatures like the vermilion bird and divine phoenix flew out from the bone club. It was a bone club forged from many rare, precious bones. This vicious weapon was extremely powerful. The moment it awakened, it erupted with countless vicious shadows that rushed towards the heavenly refining cauldron. The collision of the two supreme treasures was like an explosion in the long river of time. Resplendent splendor surged out. This aura was too ferocious. It spread throughout the entire Big Dipper star field, and the extent of its momentum was difficult to estimate. It was as if two great universes had collided, and a great crack extended for hundreds of thousands of miles. They blocked the heavenly refining cauldron. Even the deities were shaken. That was a supreme treasure, yet it was actually blocked by the three great divine kings' secret treasures. What kind of treasure is that big bone club? Why do I feel that its aura is frightening? It seems like it's only a bit weaker than a supreme treasure. It's hard to say. The supreme treasure is too powerful. The divine king can't display his full strength. Only a powerful expert with the heavenly refining cauldron can recover his greatest strength. The experts discussed among themselves. The heavenly refining cauldron and the big bone club collided again and again. Zhu Cheng released a loud roar and joined forces with the divine king to activate the heavenly refining cauldron. This immortal cauldron was becoming more and more terrifying. The cauldron gushed out with devouring immortal light like an immortal Tao weapon. It was incomparably terrifying. What a terrifying heavenly refining cauldron. It might even be able to obliterate a powerful expert's sacred weapon. The experts trembled as they saw the snow-white, sparkling big bone club tremble violently. All kinds of order, Tao, traces flickered on the bone club, but under the heavenly refining cauldron's influence, they began to dim one after another and even walk towards nothingness. This was being obliterated. You guys won't do. The heavenly refining cauldron isn't something you guys can resist. Zhu Cheng shouted coldly. Using the lives of three divine king to protect a single Su Yin, I don't think it's worth it. It was a cruel scene. The heavenly refining cauldron fell down and struck the bone club until it trembled. Although the domains of the two were still colliding, everyone could see that as time passed, the divine power contained within the bone club was rapidly decreasing. This was being obliterated by the supreme treasure's profound meaning. It was about to vanish like smoke in thin air. Xiahou and the other two divine king roared continuously. Under the interference of the heavenly refining cauldron, the qi and blood in their bodies began to decline. This was a very serious problem. If they continued to resist, they would be in danger. The three divine king would nurse a grievance under the heavenly refining cauldron. You're all stubborn. Then let's go. The people of the Kunkang region were also roaring. The essence of the divine king pierced through the heavenly refining cauldron with no regard for his life. This cauldron had been maintaining this state all along. The immortal cauldron continued to glow, shaking the power of the domains constructed by the Bone Club until they were riddled with holes. A boundless and terrifying aura penetrated downwards. It was about to destroy the three divine king in one fell swoop. The world of surging scarlet clouds buried everything. The three divine king, with overflowing qi and blood, were about to be devoured. This was a scene enough to make people despair. Many people couldn't bear to watch. Chapter 652. The Big Dipper was plagued by disasters. A large number of living beings were buried along with the heaven refining cauldron's profundity order. The territory was dyed red with blood. It was as if it had turned into a blood-colored ancient planet that was about to enter purgatory. The smell of blood was too thick. Countless people died. Even the Big Dipper city was on the verge of collapse. However, this ancient planet had existed for countless years. In the previous universe era, it had sunk and turned into the star tomb, forbidden zone. But now, the ancient celestial body was shining, as if it had recovered its vitality. The entire celestial body was covered in a layer of hazy light of order, resisting the heaven-refining power that was pouring down from the immortal furnace, protecting the cultivators who were on the verge of death. The despairing cultivators saw the light at the end of the tunnel. It was an indescribable feeling. It was as if they had fallen off a cliff and into a vast ocean. They had survived. Oh my God, look! The entire Big Dipper starfield was affected by the light emitted by the Big Dipper and started to regain its vitality. The spectating cultivators could sense that wisps of powerful aura were surging and boiling. It was about to rise from the ground and turn into the strongest ancient planet to illuminate the Big Dipper starfield. This is... Hokuto's elders looked at the Big Dipper. Many experts were so excited that they were trembling. This scene made them ecstatic. They saw the Big Dipper awakening its strongest power and interweaving order. It was as if it had turned into an independent universe world. This was the unique universe environment of the Big Dipper. The huge planet burned, and the Big Dipper awakened on its own. It actually started to resist the heaven-refining cauldron. For a moment, the heaven-refining power that filled the Big Dipper was blocked. The huge heaven-refining cauldron would not be able to strike down in a short period of time. The Big Dipper has revived. The strongest ancient planet in our Big Dipper starfield has revived. Countless living beings in the Big Dipper starfield were shouting. This was a huge event. If the Big Dipper revived, it would affect the entire Big Dipper starfield. In the future, this place would also be the core of the universe. Controlling the strongest ancient planet was the foundation of a peak clan. Even if Hokuto was lacking in power, it could still be called a peak clan. How can this be? How can the Big Dipper still release such power? Could it be that it hasn't sunk? The Kuan family's divine king's expression changed drastically. How could something like this happen? How could the Big Dipper continue to revive? This was the most powerful life ancient star back then. If he released his power, even the immortal furnace would find it extremely difficult to continue. Rumble. This was accompanied by the awakening of layers of divine king's power. Su Dalong and the other two divine kings let out deafening roars, shattering the heaven-refining power that was slashing towards them. They stood tall in the middle of the Big Dipper, radiating resplendently, as if they were divine kings patrolling the heavens. Moreover, the dim and lusterless Big Bone Club shook violently and once again emitted a powerful fluctuation. This sect's most valuable treasure could not be destroyed so easily. Now, the power of the Big Dipper had greatly reduced the pressure on them. The Big Dipper has already sunk. How can it be revived? The Kuan-Song region's expression was gloomy. If Hokuto regained control of the Big Dipper, the problem would be severe. The difficulty of devouring the Big Dipper would increase exponentially. The sudden revival of the Big Dipper dealt a heavy blow to the Kuan family. The radiance emitted by the Big Dipper spread throughout the vast Big Dipper. The energy fluctuations that rushed out blocked the heaven-refining cauldron. Even if the Big Dipper revives, even if the ancestors of Hokuto come back to life, they can't stop the fate of Hokuto from being destroyed. Zhu Cheng released his spiritual will and ignited the flames of his battle body. Vast amounts of divine king's essence blood gushed out from his body and penetrated the heaven-refining cauldron. Yes, Hokuto's destruction is only a matter of time. The Kuan-Song region's people were also shouting. This scene was earth-shattering. One after another, the divine king awakened. The power of the divine king's essence blood gushed out from the four divine kings and penetrated the heaven-refining cauldron. The heaven-refining cauldron seemed to have turned into an eternity of the world. It was too dazzling and brilliant. The moment it was opened, a supreme aura spread out. The heaven-refining cauldron was endlessly shocking and tyrannical. It was jointly launched by the four divine kings. Kill! The four divine kings roared and jointly drove the heaven-refining cauldron towards the Big Dipper. The majestic and ancient Big Dipper was affected by the boundless power of the heaven-refining cauldron. A large amount of the starry sky's power of order was distorted and shattered. However, compared to the previous commotion, it was somewhat weak. Even so, the Big Dipper was still torn open. The heaven-refining cauldron glowed and rushed towards the three divine kings of Xiaohou. A vast ocean-like aura engulfed downwards. It was as if the Milky Way had descended from the nine heavens. Scarlet multicolored light shot out in millions and millions of strands. In the face of this super powerful storm, even the sparkling and translucent large bone club was trembling. It was extremely difficult for it to block the current heaven refining furnace. However, the heaven refining cauldron was about to fall and smash the bone club away. The Big Dipper pagoda, which had been silent all this time, suddenly left the ground. As it rushed towards the peak, it pulled the light of order in the sky. It was as if it was pulling a vast and rootless starry sky. It was filled with the strongest aura. The Big Dipper pagoda has been revived. There was an uproar in Hokuto. Many old antiques were so excited that they almost cried. The Big Dipper and Big Dipper pagoda had both been revived today. To the Hokuto, this was a great event that could change the fate of their race. Why do I feel that the Big Dipper pagoda is the strongest origin treasure in the Big Dipper constellation? Kong Shi's face turned pale. He said in shock, "What level is this pagoda? It can actually draw on the ancient power of the Big Dipper. This is the strongest foundation of Hokuto," Sheng Ziyuan said proudly. With such a foundation in hand, even powerful beings would find it difficult to break in. This was because the Big Dipper pagoda could gather the power of the entire Big Dipper constellation. Even powerful beings could not easily shake it. What? The strongest foundation? The number one treasure? Everyone was shocked. The strongest foundation was actually the Big Dipper pagoda. This was a result that exceeded everyone's expectations. With such a foundation, wouldn't it mean that Hokuto had a foundation that could intimidate the peak races? The spectators were dumbstruck because the might of the Big Dipper pagoda was too strong. It was like the origin treasure that drove the Big Dipper. The body of the pagoda was deep like the abyss, and the body of the pagoda was like the starry sky. The energy it released was so strong that even the universe was wailing. How powerful was this? The Big Dipper pagoda collided with the heaven-refining cauldron that was smashing down. It was like two immortal weapons colliding. The Big Dipper constellation radiated monstrous waves that swept through the sea of stars and spread to several constellations. This storm was boundless and surging. The experts in the outer realms could not see clearly because the radiance of the collision was too dazzling. It was like the pagoda and the immortal cauldron were colliding again and again. The momentum shook the heavens and the starry sky. Moreover, the Big Dipper pagoda was becoming more and more resplendent. At the final moment, the Big Dipper constellation rose and fell. The boundless divine energy of the constellation was gathered and blocked the boundless heaven refining energy. Even the cauldron was trembling from the impact. Puffed. The four divine kings coughed up blood from the backlash of the heaven refining cauldron. The divine king's body was trembling. How can this be? The four divine kings have been injured. Some clan lords cried out in alarm. Those were the four divine kings who controlled the heaven refining cauldron. But now they were injured and coughing up blood. The divine king's body was on the verge of cracking. This kind of backlash was enough to make one fearful. Perhaps even a deity would be reduced to ashes in a single exchange. The Big Dipper pagoda is too powerful. It gathered the energy of the Big Dipper constellation and injured the four divine kings. If it wasn't for the heaven refining cauldron, the four divine kings might have been killed. This is the strength of a constellation, as expected of the most powerful ancient star of the previous era. The scene caused a commotion. Some experts who wanted to get their hands on the treasures of the Big Dipper constellation turned pale. Such a terrifying foundation was equivalent to the foundation of a peak clan. But now, Hokuto once again possessed it. Zhu Yanbo was enraged. His hair was standing on end. The eyes of the Kunkang region turned red. A huge variable had appeared. The heaven refining cauldron was blocked, but the one driving the Big Dipper pagoda was actually Su Yin. The variable was too great. The four divine kings roared in anger. They were so close to succeeding just now, but because of the Big Dipper pagoda, they felt that they had already lost. Su Yin stood tall between heaven and earth. The Big Dipper imprint appeared between his brows. He was the supreme Big Dipper. Standing on the Big Dipper star, he was the Big Dipper war god. His divine might was awe-inspiring, and he had the demeanor of a peerless master. Ha ha ha! Delightful, delightful! Xiaoho and the others looked up to the sky and laughed. This feeling of exaltation was too exhilarating. The heaven refining cauldron that the ancestral hall was so proud of had failed. Not only was it blocked, but even the four divine kings were injured. Moreover, the Big Dipper imprint between Su Yan's brows was even stronger. He had obtained everything from the Big Dipper pagoda and discovered that it could be considered the source of the Sea of Origin. Once it was revived, it could operate the divine power of the entire Big Dipper constellation. So what? Zhu Cheng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His cold eyes scanned the Big Dipper pagoda. He laughed angrily and said, "That won't change Hokuto's fate. Today, even if the entire Big Dipper constellation is destroyed, you will still fall." His voice spread throughout the constellation. His words sent chills down everyone's spines and gave them goosebumps. At this moment, the world was silent. This was because a strand of suffocating aura seemed to have spread out from the river of time. It carried a terrifying airflow and surged towards the Big Dipper constellation. "It's here." Su Yin had already sensed it. At the moment of the Big Dipper constellation's awakening, with his mastery of the origin, Su Yin was the first to sense it. In the depths of the universe, there was a familiar aura, but this aura made him shudder. If there was a powerful expert watching here, he would be able to see it clearly. In the depths of the universe, the aura that was spreading out drowned the galaxies and filled the constellations. It was too terrifying. When the boundless and terrifying existence passed by, the universe was silent. The sun and moon dimmed, and the stars were silent. What kind of existence was that? This was a mighty existence. It was unimaginable how powerful this expert was. His might made the giant battleships docked outside the Big Dipper constellation tremble. They trembled like pebbles. Boom. Chapter 653. The starry sky was silent forever. The sun, moon, and stars in the sky, the colorful starry sky, started to die out silently. Everything lost its luster, and the outer space fell into endless darkness. This was the end of the universe. Even gods and devils would tremble when they came, and all living beings would tremble on the ground. Even the gods were scared out of their wits and couldn't wait to run away. Especially when the powerful beings passed by, the starry regions where they left were similarly silent. That was the aura left behind by the powerful beings when they passed by. It was so intimidating that the starry regions didn't even dare to breathe loudly. All living beings fell into a deathly silence. They couldn't wait to be buried forever and didn't want to face the powerful beings. The originally noisy Big Dipper starry region was also silent. Even the battlefield that was filled with corpses stopped abruptly. Everything started to tremble with the arrival of the powerful beings. Who dared to be impudent in front of the powerful beings? Even the Divine King tried his best to restrain his aura. However, the arrival of the Ancestor Hall's ancestor with killing intent made the Divine King's breathing heavy. His legs went soft, and he almost fell to the ground. In any case, no matter how strong one's foundation was, no matter how strong one's race was, as long as they weren't in the same domain, they would have to maintain absolute respect in front of the powerful beings. Over the years, too many powerful races in the universe have been annihilated because of the anger of the powerful beings. Boom! An unparalleled pressure spread from the depths of the universe and rushed towards the Big Dipper constellation. Fortunately, the Big Dipper constellation's environment was extremely strong due to the birth of the Big Dipper constellation and the reawakening of the Big Dipper constellation. Otherwise, Many cracks would appear in the starry region, and even the ancient planets would be in danger of shattering. At that time, all living beings would be plunged into misery and suffering. It was difficult for a starry region to bear the power of the powerful beings. The powerful beings were like immortal furnaces that could burn the heavens. Their supreme aura filled the entire place, and a figure appeared. He was huge and peerless as he looked down on the heavens. He was too majestic and shocking, completely different from the embodiment of the godly mountain range. At this moment, the Ancestor Hall's aura shook the heavens. The sun, moon, and stars revolved around his hair and fingers. That was because his body was so huge that it was unknown how many tens of thousands of feet tall it disappeared into the sea of stars. Powerful beings. Kong Shi and the others were in despair. The powerful beings had arrived, and the entire Big Dipper starry region seemed to be suppressed under the feet of the powerful beings. Almighties were living beings after all. They were completely different from artifacts like the heavenly refining furnace. Even the heavenly deities trembled, feeling great fear inside. They wanted to kneel down and welcome him. This wasn't because they were cowardly, but rather because great powers were too world-shocking. Their might shook the ages, and they crossed star regions to look down on everything. They were said to be unrivaled giants in the starry skies. Buried region clan, ancestral palace's ancient ancestor spoke. His voice was great, shaking the heavens and making the boundless starry domain tremble. His voice entered the ears of all creatures like thunder, making their primordial spirits feel like falling. His silhouette also became clearer. He was supreme, sitting cross-legged above the Big Dipper starfield. In the dark starfield, he was the only one who had existed since ancient times. He was the only one who illuminated the starfield. Greetings, Almighty. The experts of the Ancestral Hall and the Kuan family knelt down to welcome him respectfully. This person had lived for a very long time. Almighty experts could create a universe and change the environment of a universe. Their lifespans were relatively long because their power could affect time. Ancestral Palace's ancient ancestor's lifespan was definitely not less than 30,000 years, and it might even be longer. As for how long a great power could live, that would depend on luck. There were some great powers who could live for an entire universe era. Normally speaking, great powers were all in the primal chaos ruins. That was because the primal chaos ruins heaven and earth were strong enough to support the aura of a great power. In the cosmos, there were extremely few places that could support the might of a great power. Right now, the Big Dipper starfield could be considered one of them. There are some things that should be settled. When the voice of a supreme being came out, his murderous intent could crush the souls of others. A cold wind swept through the entire star domain. Countless ancient planets with life dimmed down. All creatures in this world were about to fall under the murderous intent of this supreme being. The Big Dipper starfield was too vast, but now a tremendous pressure surged over, making the entire starfield tremble slightly. Everyone saw a palm reach over, filling the starry skies. This was the action of a great power. His divine might shook the four seas, and all the cultivators were trembling in fear. Large amounts of them prostrated themselves on the ground. Even heavenly deities couldn't bear it. Blood flowed out of their mouths and noses. They were all suppressed, and their legs went soft. They were suffocating to death. This wasn't targeted at them, but they couldn't help but want to disintegrate their bodies. They let out terrified voices. Too terrifying. Who can contend against them? A great power is a great power after all. They are supreme and can lead a race from glory to prosperity. We're like ants. That enormous palm was boundless and surged with billions of layers of cosmic light. Even the slightest bit of its aura was enough to shatter the heavens and shatter the great stars of the universe. Under the overturning force, the huge Big Dipper starfield seemed to be on the verge of being slapped away. Bamboo Moon gave up on Kuantianyu and flew towards the Big Dipper starfield. After all, she had cultivated the Big Dipper scripture. In the current environment of the Big Dipper starfield, Bamboo Moon's aura was even stronger. She was flying towards the Big Dipper Pagoda. In the process, the power of the Great Power had already enveloped the area. The awakened Big Dipper starfield trembled violently. The giant hand tore through the order and grabbed towards the Big Dipper Pagoda. With a single thought, the starry skies were shattered and countless stars fell. Moreover, the great power of the great Tao of the universe was wailing. Even the Big Dipper Pagoda, whose aura surged into the heavens, was suppressed by the aura of the great power. Boom! The Big Dipper Pagoda trembled violently as heaven and earth exploded. The aura was too terrifying. This was the collision between the great power of the great power and the Big Dipper Pagoda. The impact was enormous. It was hard to imagine just how heaven-defying the powers were clashing and clashing here. The world was about to be destroyed. The seemingly supreme Big Dipper Pagoda was trembling lightly. Su Yin roared as blood spurted out of all the pores on his body. No matter how strong he was as weak as an ant in the face of a great power. His entire flesh shell was damaged and cracks were spreading out. This was the rebound force transmitted by the Big Dipper Pagoda. Although Su Yin had grasped the strongest foundation, his cultivation was too weak. Even if there were cultivators with supreme treasures that could contend against great powers, they would still be killed by great powers. However, when facing a truly powerful being, cultivators would also be killed. It was simply impossible to fight against a powerful being. Little Muddlehead, Xiahou, and the other two Divine King were furious. A great power had taken action and even targeted a junior. It was clear how much the Ancestral Hall ancestor wanted to kill Su Yin. They wanted to rush over to help, but the heavenly refining cauldron under Zhu Cheng's control attacked them once again. This was to trap the three Divine King and let the Ancestral Hall ancestor take Su Yin away first. At that time, even if the heavens fell and the earth split apart, they wouldn't care at all. They were really worried that Su Yin would be killed by the heavenly refining cauldron. At that time, all their efforts would be for naught. Bastard! Su Dalong and the others roared. They were also worried and nervous. The matter was big enough that even the Ancestral Hall ancestor had jumped out, but the old chief still hadn't come out of seclusion. There were only two reasons. The old chief was trapped, or the old chief was in seclusion. Some people said that the old chief of the burial realm had fallen, but they didn't believe it. If the old chief had really died in battle, they would have a premonition that something unexpected had happened. Or maybe the old chief was in seclusion and didn't know anything about the outside world. Su Yin, Yi Yuan, and the others roared angrily, but they were powerless to change anything. A great power had taken action. The Big Dipper Pagoda was shaken by the great power. Su Yin seemed very weak in this storm. His battle body was about to shatter and explode into a bloody mist, but he was still alive. This made everyone flabbergasted. Su Yin was the controller of the Big Dipper Pagoda. If his strength could reach a higher level, could he borrow the power of the Big Dipper starfield to contend with the great power? Let me do it. You go. It was also at this time that a fairy crossed over. Bamboo Moon rushed towards the Big Dipper Pagoda and brandished a great power's holy sword. She slashed open a large crack and rushed towards the Big Dipper Pagoda. Bamboo Moon, let me do it. I can't stop him. Take him and leave. Su Yin's spirit was flickering. Under the great power's might, he could fall at any time. But Su Yin felt that he could still hold on for a while. Perhaps he could use this time to get Hokuto to withdraw some of its experts and preserve some of the fire seeds. But Bamboo Moon had already crossed over. The trembling Big Dipper Pagoda suddenly shone even brighter. Go, leave this place. You've done enough. Hokuto will prosper because of you. You must survive. Go. Bamboo Moon's expression was solemn. Her snow-white body glowed, as if she had transformed into a pure and holy moon. Countless mysterious characters shot out from her starry eyes. Each character was as brilliant as the stars. Their auras were profound, as if they were formed from the interweaving of the great path's immortal marks. The ancient Big Dipper Pagoda started to resound with grand sutra chanting. For a time, the Big Dipper constellation rose and fell gently. Under the horrified gazes of the people, the Big Dipper pagoda became terrifying once again. Its aura soared into the heavens like a celestial pagoda. Its revival this time was like the carrier of the great path of the constellation. As it swallowed, the vast Big Dipper constellation was filled with the most ancient and powerful aura. The aura of the Big Dipper constellation. The surrounding constellations were trembling. It was as if the constellations were showing respect to the Big Dipper constellation. What kind of manifestation was this? This was the manifestation of the resurrection of the most powerful constellation. The seven supreme life stars instantly revolved. They broke away from their original orbits and revolved around the Big Dipper one after another. Dubhe, Merak, Alkaid, Mizar, Fekta, Merak, and Alioth. The auras of the seven life stars merged into one. They revolved around the Big Dipper constellation and rumbled. It was as if they were turning the wheels of the constellation, causing the entire constellation to shine continuously until it finally illuminated the universe. Boom! The Big Dipper constellation turned into a sea of constellations and resonated with the Big Dipper constellation. In an instant, a huge constellation map was formed. The ancient and supreme aura emanated from it, and in the vast universe, it emitted a towering radiance. This was the manifestation of the resurrection of the Big Dipper constellation. The universe's environment had changed, and it had returned to the previous era of the universe. It was glorious and prosperous. All of this was due to the Big Dipper scripture. The scripture's power had changed the Big Dipper constellation's environment, causing the entire Big Dipper constellation to be filled with an aura that deterred the gods and devils of the heavens. Chapter 654. The Big Dipper star region has been in decline for an epoch. Now, it has awakened. In the vast starry sky, star regions were connected one after another. They were all a part of the universe. However, with the vastness of the universe, it was impossible for the powerful beings to observe the entire universe and the actions of the countless living beings. However, in this starry sky, where hundreds of star regions gathered, a bright light exploded like a river of stars. It released the most magnificent light in the world and radiated across the universe. It was so resplendent that it made people revere it from the bottom of their hearts. The hundreds of star regions seemed to be shaking the power of the Big Dipper star region. The important figures of the various forces opened their heavenly eyes and looked into the distance. They saw the Big Dipper star region awakening from its decline. That's the Big Dipper star region that had been silent for an epoch has awakened. This scene alarmed the experts of the major forces. Anyone could see clearly that the Big Dipper galaxy was shining brilliantly. The seven ancient life stars were revolving around the Big Dipper. Their auras were connected as one, and they emitted an unparalleled divine radiance. How domineering was this? The Big Dipper star region seemed to have returned to the previous epoch. Some people also saw a silver-robed woman standing in a magnificent star region. She seemed to be standing at the peak of the star region. Her beauty was unparalleled. Her aura suppressed the universe's sea of stars. Her aura soared into the heavens. People seemed to have seen an invincible war goddess patrolling the skies at the peak of the star region. That's the Big Dipper Star Lord. Why do I feel that she's even more terrifying than the Divine King? The powerful beings of the various races were shocked. The energy emitted by the Big Dipper star region was too vast. Bamboo Moon stood at the peak of the Big Dipper star tower. The power of the Big Dipper scripture drove the Big Dipper star tower. She used the first origin treasure to return the Big Dipper star region to the previous epoch. Big Dipper scripture, Big Dipper star tower, and Big Dipper star region. For a moment, the vast starry sky was shining. This was the scene of a peak race rising. The vast starry sky was dim, and only the Big Dipper star region emitted resplendent light. Some important figures even sensed that as the Big Dipper star region breathed, the power of the sea of stars and the vast starry sky started flowing towards the Big Dipper star region. This was especially true for the surrounding stellar regions. The experts of these forces complained incessantly. Originally, they were prepared to take advantage of the situation and topple the Big Dipper stellar region. But now the Big Dipper constellation had awoken in defiance of the natural order. It had devoured the divine energy of the surrounding stars and poured it back into the Big Dipper constellation, causing the aged Big Dipper constellation to become even more dazzling and blazing, exuding supreme divine might. Star-Lord, Star-Lord, Star-Lord. Excited shouts could be heard throughout the Big Dipper constellation. Every disciple of Hokuto was ecstatic. What a magnificent feat this was. The Big Dipper constellation had evolved into the most powerful universe layout, emitting an aura that could suppress all life. Suyin, Paragon of the Big Dipper, Lord of the Big Dipper. With two powerful moves, they have unraveled the foundation of our race that had been dormant for ages. Sheng Ziyuan and the others felt as if they had become many years younger. They were so excited that they were about to cry. The resurrection of the Big Dipper Tower had triggered a series of unforeseen events. Originally, the Big Dipper had not sunk at all. It was still emitting power and could even evolve into the most powerful layout. How could the once pinnacle race not know the strength of such a layout? Speaking of which, it was extremely difficult for even a mighty being to invade. Even the residents of the Big Dipper constellation were so excited that they were roaring with laughter. This was also very important to them. In the past, their identity as residents of the Big Dipper constellation was nothing. If the layout of this constellation could be maintained, then it would be an identity that they could be proud of. The release of the massive amount of divine power allowed the natives of the Big Dipper star zone to experience the benefits. Many of the combat soldiers who were struggling in the pool of blood even got up and roared excitedly, as if they had taken a great tonic. How can this be? How can this be? The entire Kuan family was infuriated. They had already paid a hefty price and suffered heavy losses. Just as they were about to conquer the Big Dipper constellation, the awakening of the constellation's layout had allowed the Big Dipper constellation to rise from its decline to an unprecedented glory. Falling down was not scary. What was scary was being able to crawl back up and stand at the peak. That was true strength. This was a magnificent feat that could intimidate thousands of races. Su Yin, this vile creature, has activated the Big Dipper constellation's origin treasure. The Big Dipper has not sunk yet. Not yet. Kuan Tianyu was enraged. His eyes were red and emitted lightning. They didn't care about the buried region. Their goal was to conquer the Big Dipper constellation, expand their territory, and bring glory to their ancestors. In the end, they felt like they had lost. Even if they could conquer the Big Dipper constellation now, the price they had to pay would be disastrous. Bamboo Moon. Su Yin let out a smile, as if he had been entrusted with a heavy burden. He was extremely tired and his injuries were severe. He had been injured by a powerful being. However, Su Yan's heart was filled with joy. He looked at the supreme Zhu Yu and knew that he had succeeded. Big Dipper constellation, do you want to become enemies with my ancestral hall? The ancestral hall's great ancestor's cold voice resounded. It was deafening and resounded throughout the starry sky, causing everyone's heart to sink. Great ancestor, you must be joking. Bamboo Moon, who was floating above the Big Dipper constellation pagoda, was like a fairy. She had a peerless elegance as she coldly said, "You barged into my Big Dipper constellation. How are we enemies with your ancestral hall? I'm here for the Buried Region clan. Make way. The ancestral hall will not target Hokuto." The ancestral hall's great ancestor spoke in an unquestionable tone. This scene caused Zhu Cheng and the others to frown. The Big Dipper constellation still had the strongest foundation. If the ancestral hall's great ancestor wanted to attack, he would need to expend his own foundation. Great ancestors had long lifespans, but if they fought too hard, their lifespans would be greatly reduced. The Cohen family's people had ugly expressions. If the ancestral hall withdrew, their grand plan would be for naught. However, the Big Dipper constellation's foundation was still there. Wanting to completely destroy the Big Dipper constellation was relatively difficult even for great experts. The entire Big Dipper constellation was very quiet. Either they handed over Su Yin and the others, or they became enemies with the Ancestral Hall. Neither path was easy to choose. You mean to say that we should be more shameless than the Cohen family and stab them in the back? Bamboo Moon's cold reply almost drove the Cohen family crazy. Cohen Sangyu roared, "Bastard! Great ancestor! I see that Hokuto is determined to be your enemy. They have no intention of backing down. It's only right for them to be wiped out. You all will be buried with them." Many of Hokuto's elders rushed towards the Big Dipper constellation. If it wasn't for Su Yin activating the Big Dipper constellation pagoda, and if it wasn't for Xiaoho and the others arriving in time, Hokuto would have suffered heavy casualties. If they really made way for them, would Hokuto still have the clan's fate? A cold laugh rang out. The influence was too great. A great expert could destroy an ancient planet with a single thought. Now, the Ancestral Hall's great ancestor was standing above the Big Dipper constellation, emitting killing intent. Bam! A terrifying aura pervaded the air. Bloody light shot out and shattered the outer realm's starry skies. This was too shocking. Even though the Big Dipper constellation had evolved its most powerful layout, under the killing intent of a great expert, all living things felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. They felt as if they were being killed by the river of time. Boom! Heavy enough to crush the constellation spread out violently. Someone saw a huge black seal across the sky. When it descended from the sky, it was like a supreme seal that suppressed the world's reincarnation. It was filled with the power to suppress the world. That was the Ancestral Hall's great ancestor's natal treasure. It was also known as a great expert's holy weapon. The great expert will continue to attack. We haven't lost yet. We still have a chance to take over the Big Dipper constellation. Our Cohen family won't continue to be so unlucky. Our time has come. The Cohen family regained their hope. Since the Ancestral Hall's great ancestor had attacked in anger, it meant that he was determined to overturn the Big Dipper constellation and capture Su Yin. The world-ending battle is about to begin. The onlookers were terrified. Many experts were worried that they would be hit by the battle's shockwaves and left the battlefield. Nobody wanted to face such a terrifying battle. Boom! At this moment, the outer realms trembled. They were about to clash with a great expert's might in the Big Dipper constellation. This scene was too sudden. Look, that chariot is so shocking. Many people turned pale because the commotion was getting louder. It was as if a giant will had drilled out of time and space. It caused the outer realms to rumble. Its momentum shook the heavens, and the stars and moon trembled. Extremely terrifying shockwaves spread out. Even the Ancestral Hall's great ancestor stopped. A strange look flashed in his eyes. The great battle was about to begin. A mysterious expert from the outer realms was attacking. Even from afar, people could already see a huge bronze chariot. It was boundlessly huge and emitted a boundless aura as it crushed through the starry skies. Heavens, 9 heavenly deity-level flood dragons are pulling the chariot. Everyone present was scared silly. They staggered and almost fell to the ground. Even a heavenly deity expert's expressions were the most abnormal. They all saw expert from the same domain as them pulling a bronze chariot toward the Big Dipper constellation. Those are 9 flood dragons. They were suffused with chaotic light. Each of them was as thick as a mountain and tens of thousands of feet long. Their bodies were jet black and overflowed with a ferocious aura. The 9 black flood dragons swallowed the starry skies. Their bodies were so huge that they could be called giant mountain ranges. This was a shocking scene. 9 flood dragons were pulling a bronze chariot toward the Big Dipper constellation. The experts from the Golden Dragon King's bloodline were even more shocked. The expert who was strong enough to be their bloodline's ancestor was actually a creature pulling a chariot. Who would believe this if word got out? This was too ostentatious. People even suspected that this was a great expert on a journey. The chariot crossed the boundless starry skies and arrived at the Big Dipper constellation. The instant the chariot's doors opened, it was as if a golden ocean had opened up inside. A tall golden figure walked out from inside. As he breathed, the starry skies dimmed. The vast power of the stars was swallowed by him. His meridians were long and drawn out. It was as if a golden dragon was breathing here. How terrifying! Chapter 655. The starry skies were quiet. A mysterious expert had arrived at the Big Dipper starfield. It was suspected to be an almighty. His entire body was gushing with golden holy light. Some people felt that he was even more astonishing than a giant dragon. The moment he breathed, the starry skies darkened, and the sun and moon fell silent. It was as if he had absorbed all the divine energy in this starfield. One could well imagine how powerful he was to be able to affect the environment of the starry skies. Moreover, he didn't conceal his aura at all, causing the heavenly deities to tremble. Even the divine king's heart sank. This was definitely a legendary character. So much so that experts who could devour the starry skies walked out one after another from the bronze chariot. What was shocking was that these youngsters were all exuberant with frightening auras. One couldn't see through their depths. These youngsters looked around. They didn't reveal too much surprise towards this starfield filled with a sea of blood. They felt that this was a very normal thing. However, they frequently frowned as they looked around. They felt that the experts in this starfield were very weak. There were very few experts, and almost none of them could be considered peers. This made them feel somewhat disappointed. In the end, their gazes landed in front of Bamboo Moon, who was standing tall in the Big Dipper Pagoda. Their eyes began to shine. "Ancestral Hall, Almighty, can you calm your anger for a moment?" A calm voice came from this golden figure. He was like a burning golden immortal furnace as he appeared in front of the Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor. His figure also became clearer. This was an old man, but he was full of spirit. The essence blood in his body was abundant, and he didn't look old at all. Who was this expert? The spectators looked around in confusion. They couldn't recognize his origins. He seems to be some of the old antiques' expressions changed. They recognized this golden old man, but why would such a character come here? Why is this old man here? In particular, the expert from the Kuan family had an abnormal expression. The people from the Kuan family were relatively familiar with this old man because their family came from the Primal Chaos ruins. In fact, their influence in the Primal Chaos ruins was extremely shocking. To put it bluntly, even the Ancestral Hall would give him face. The Ancestral Hall was the strongest power in the universe. Of course, they couldn't count the Primal Chaos ruins, as there were some powers in the Primal Chaos ruins that couldn't be provoked. The Sky Bamboo lineage was one of them. So it's Elder Yuan Qing. The Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor nodded slightly and said indifferently, "Why have you come here?" Everyone turned pale. The Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor had become easy to talk to. He was ready to go to war, but now he had restrained his anger. Everyone could see that Zhu Yuanqing was inferior to the Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor. Some people speculated that it was very likely to be a half-step almighty. Half-step mighty figure. Su Yin, who was severely injured, finally obtained this domain from Su Dalong. Generally speaking, it was an extremely difficult domain to cross from the Divine King to the Almighty Realm. Some experts who failed to cross realms even stood in the domain of the half-step Almighty. This was very difficult. It was already very impressive for one of the 10 failed Divine King to become a half-step Almighty. This uninvited guest was a half-step Almighty. Although he wasn't Almighty, he was related to an Almighty and could be considered half an Overlord. However, the Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor had stopped at this juncture. Was he giving face to a half-step mighty figure? Of course, that was impossible. The answer must have come from the power behind him. That's right. Xiaoho and the others had some time to catch their breath. They used their Divine King's blood essence to help Su Yin recuperate from his injuries. Even if it was an ordinary injury, it would take a long time to heal from the shock of the Almighty. Little Muddlehead was just a little bit old back then. I didn't expect him to be so big now. Yi Ling Tian laughed. He didn't change his expression in front of a strong enemy. They had experienced too much bloodshed and were top experts in the Divine King's domain. One day, they might be able to defy the heavens and break through. They had broken into the almighty realm. Good boy, how did you get here? Did you return from Sky Mountain? As far as I know, Sky Mountain can only be used to travel to the major star zones. It can't be used across to Sky Mountain from the other side. Xiaoho quickly asked, how's the progenitor? I haven't been there before. Since you can come, it means that the progenitor is safe and sound. Su Yan's expression changed. He hesitated for a moment before telling Yi Lingtian about the danger that the progenitor might have encountered. The progenitor has been exposed. Even if there's a slight chance of it being exposed, we have to take precautions. I didn't expect the ancestral hall to be searching for the progenitor all this time. Su Yin and the others communicated with their primordial spirits to save time. He felt that he had to tell them everything now. Once they left the Big Dipper star zone, Su Yan's combat strength would return to the Great Tao realm. Under such a powerful storm, he wouldn't be able to unleash much of his strength to change the situation. Hence, the progenitor needed the Divine King to oversee it. He even needed them to relocate Earth. Su Dalong and the others wore grave expressions. The calamity was more severe than they had imagined. The ancestral hall had been searching for the progenitor all this time. However, relocating the progenitor was easier said than done. What's the progenitor? Su Yan's face regained some color, and his declining aura started to recover. He wanted to know more about it. However, Xiaoho and the others didn't know much about it. They only knew that the progenitor's origin was very ancient. They couldn't explain it at all. Outside the Big Dipper, Zhu Yuanqing was all smiles. He wore a golden robe and looked extraordinarily valiant. One look and one could tell that he was an expert who wielded great authority. Even when facing the ancestral hall's ancient ancestors, his aura didn't pale in comparison. It's a small matter in the family. It'll be over soon and won't delay the ancestral hall's important matters. After saying that, Zhu Yuanqing looked at Zhu Yu, including some of the young experts he had brought with him. They all looked at Zhu Yu. The atmosphere was a little strange. Some of the elders in Hokuto had strange expressions. They wondered if this had something to do with Bamboo Moon or the family behind Bamboo Moon. The old Star Lord's disciples knew very well that Bamboo Moon's family came from the Chaos Ruins. Could the family behind her be so powerful? How could they be related to the Chaos Ruins Leviathan? They found it hard to believe. Not bad. Zhu Yuanqing looked at Bamboo Moon and sensed her current strength. He nodded with satisfaction and said, Bamboo Moon, you're already in the heavenly god realm. Come with me. There was an uproar in Hokuto. What was this? Letting their Star Lord leave with a half-step almighty? Hokuto was going through a catastrophe now. More importantly, how could their current Star Lord leave Hokuto? Kuan Tianyu's expression was very ugly. The beauty he had taken a fancy to should be a member of the Sky Bamboo bloodline. This made him very surprised and scared. Fortunately, he didn't suppress Bamboo Moon just now. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Who are you people? Sheng Ziyuan couldn't help but ask. I'm the Star Lord of the Big Dipper. Why should I leave with you? Shut up. A young man with his hands behind his back scolded. His sword-like eyebrows reached his temples, and his aura was terrifying. In an instant, it was as if a golden lion was awakening. Sheng Ziyuan's chi and blood were in turmoil. He staggered and fell to the ground, his body showing signs of shattering. The whole place was in an uproar. This young man's aura was extremely terrifying. He was like an invincible heavenly god standing between heaven and earth, looking down on the world. Supreme Elder. Hokuto's experts were furious. This was an elder of their family, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him the patriarch. However, he was now coughing up blood because of a young man's scolding. He was in a very sorry state. How dare you? Bamboo Moon's starry eyes widened in anger. She was now in control of the Big Dipper Star Pagoda. When she was angry, the vast Big Dipper Star domain rumbled. All kinds of terrifying auras rushed toward the young expert who had scolded Sheng Ziyuan. Stop! Zhu Yuanqing shook his golden sleeves and blocked all kinds of energy storms. At the same time, he sighed and said, as expected of the peak star domain of the past. Unfortunately, The star domain's power has been greatly depleted. Miss, please don't blame me. I only spoke in a moment of desperation. The young man with sword-like eyebrows spoke with a smile. However, he didn't look like he was admitting his mistake. Instead, he smiled and said, I didn't expect him to be so weak. I injured him directly. It was my fault just now. I will compensate him for his loss. Sheng Ziyuan's eyes widened in anger. This was a naked humiliation. Bamboo Moon, your temper is really bad. How can you be so tough on your own clan's disciples? You don't care about their feelings at all. That's a little too much. Zhu Yuanqing's face was a little unhappy. He said with a straight face, Come with me. You've been away from the family for long enough. It's time to go back. Some people in the family want to see you, especially the patriarch of the family. He misses you very much. I went back in the past, but the family didn't welcome me. Bamboo Moon was graceful, noble, and pure. Her body was like a divine moon, blooming with divine light. She said faintly, Now that I'm Hokuto's Star Lord, there's no reason for me to go back. It doesn't make sense. Please go back. Hearing this, Zhu Yuanqing frowned and said, What happened in the past was just an accident. Why are you still taking it to heart? Of course, the family will definitely investigate this matter. You can rest assured. Although you're now the Star Lord of the Big Dipper, Hokuto is no longer the Hokuto of the past. It's time for you to go back. All the disciples of Hokuto were furious. They thought that reinforcements had arrived, but they didn't expect Zhu Yuanqing to belittle Hokuto. They were in a bad mood. Was Hokuto really that weak? Su Yan's face was ugly. Bamboo Moon was severely injured in the Chaos Ruins because of her family. Since I'm Hokuto's Star Lord, I won't go back. Bamboo Moon said coldly. Do as you please. You. Zhu Yuanqing was furious. His face was gloomy. The blood in his body couldn't help but roll, causing the starry sky to tremble. He was quite powerful. The strength of a half-step almighty was extremely shocking. No ordinary expert could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Miss Bamboo Moon, why are you talking to the Grand Elder like that? The young man with dashing eyebrows frowned. Zhu Pingyi walked forward and said, On the way here, I heard some things about Mississippi. It seems that it's related to this. Chapter 656. The disciples of Hokuto were furious. Zhu Pingyi's words were hard for them to accept. Su Yan was an invincible monument in their hearts, and he was also the star domain supreme of the Big Dipper constellation. He could be said to be the #1 person in the Big Dipper constellation. However, Zhu Pingyi had made Su Yan look worthless with just a few words. This was equivalent to trampling on the entire Big Dipper constellation without restraint. Did you see that? A cold glint flashed in Xiaoho's eyes. He sneered and said, Now, everyone thinks that our race has declined beyond recognition. Everyone wants to trample on us. Perhaps it was quite satisfying to trample on the strongest force in the universe back in the day. Hee. Su Dalong and Yi Lingtian sneered. They had killed many heavenly gods, but this was the first time they had encountered such an arrogant heavenly god. Su Yan clenched his fists, his face ashen. Even an unrelated force could casually talk about the Zhongyu clan. Xiaoho was right. Since the Zhongyu clan was once the strongest force in the universe, now that they had declined, everyone wanted to step on them. That little bastard, Yi Lingtian's bad temper, could not bear to listen any longer. He pointed at Zhu Pingyi and shouted, Get over here. Come, see how powerful you are. Come, let's exchange a few moves. Hearing this, Zhu Pingyi's face darkened. He looked around and soon looked at the barbaric man standing on the Big Dipper. Sensing the other party's aura, he sneered and said, The great divine king is challenging a heavenly god like me. You're really shameless. My race's rising star can kill a deity even at the great Tao realm. Can you King do it? Yi Lingtian's response caused a commotion in the Big Dipper constellation. Su Yan's strength was unquestionable. He had indeed killed a deity before. Zhu Pingyi's face was cold, and he said disdainfully, What's there to brag about? You're just borrowing the power of a star domain supreme. I don't think it's worth mentioning. Also, it's not rare for a great Tao realm to kill a deity. My race also has an invincible supreme who can do it. Unfortunately, you're not on the same level at all. You're destined to only look up to him for the rest of your lives. Yuan's expression was extremely ugly. This was too arrogant. I'll give you a chance. Suppress your strength to the great Tao realm and come over here to fight with the rising star of my clan. Yiling Tian cast a sidelong glance at Zhu Pengyi and snorted coldly. If you don't dare, then shut your mouth. If you're a man, then get over here. Do you think I'm afraid of him? He hasn't even made it through the primal chaos ruins, yet he dares to call himself an expert? Zhu Pengyi's blood essence surged within his body. The power of his bloodline was abnormally terrifying. He didn't believe that a declining clan could produce such a powerhouse. Although Su Yin was rumored to be very strong in this star field, even to the point of being somewhat abnormal, none of the powerhouses that emerged from the chaos ruins were weak. This was especially true for Zhu Pengyi, who was relatively young and possessed an extremely high combat strength. Zhu Pengyi also wanted to understand just how strong the young powerhouses of this universe were. The clan of the Burial Realm has declined to the point that only the 3 great divine kings remain. What qualifications do you have to challenge my clan, Xingjia? Zhu Yuanqing's cold eyes swept across them, and thick lightning bolts shot out from his pupils. He coldly said, Zhu Pengyi, go over there and suppress this person for me. Bring him over. Yes, Elder. I will definitely not disappoint everyone. I will suppress this person and bring him back. Zhu Pengyi was overjoyed. He had long been displeased with Su Yin. According to the information he had obtained, Bamboo Moon should have also stepped in to rescue Su Yin. If he suppressed Su Yin in front of Bamboo Moon, she would be able to clearly see the difference between the powerhouses of the universe and those of the chaos ruins. Beat him to death. Do I need you to tell me that? Eldest senior brother can suppress him with a single finger. He's too arrogant. He deserves to be beheaded. Many of Hokudo's disciples roared, especially Shang Yuan, who was forcefully suppressing the flames of anger in his heart. He had lost face just now. Shang Yuan even felt that he had lost face for Hokudo. He was extremely depressed and resentful. Zhu Pengyi's righteous spirit could swallow mountains and rivers. Although his strength had been suppressed to the great Tao realm, his combat strength was still strong. Golden sacred flames emerged from his body, and his battle body burned fiercely. He looked extraordinary. I'll give you time to recuperate. Zhu Pengyi sneered as he moved toward Hokudo. Don't look for excuses when you lose. Su Yin didn't say a word. He stood up. Just now, with the help of Xiahou, he had recovered a lot from his injuries. Although he didn't have the combat strength of his peak, Su Yin was very confident in dealing with Zhu Pengyi. At the same time, he really wanted to know just how strong the legacy disciples of the Chaos Ruins' colossal forces were. Haha, Ancestral Palace's almighty, you don't mind wasting some time, right? Zhu Yuanqing smiled at the Ancestral Palace's ancient ancestor. It's just a small matter of the family. I'm sorry for making you laugh. I also want to see how strong the legacy disciples of Sky Bamboo are. The Ancestral Palace's ancient ancestor was very calm. If you can't suppress them, I'll have to do it myself. After saying that, the Ancestral Palace's ancient ancestor's aura faintly surged. It was extremely fierce. Even Zhu Yuanqing felt a strong pressure. At the same time, he could see the Ancestral Palace's ancient ancestor's determination. He wouldn't back down. Even if the Sky Bamboo's patriarch came to plead, it was impossible. Zhu Yuanqing saw the determination of the Almighty and knew that he couldn't resolve it. The will of the Almighty wasn't something he could change. Do you see that? The Ancestral Palace's current generation Almighty won't let this go. Come back with me immediately. They're not to be trifled with. Zhu Yuanqing transmitted his voice. The Burial Region's clan has already declined. As for this small character called Su Yin, so what if he's strong? He's not a deity. Even if he's a deity, what can he do? Can he compete with the top seeds of the Divine King in the world? We'll know after we fight, Bamboo Moon replied coldly. Haha, even Zhu Pengyi can't suppress the rising stars of the declining clans? Zhu Yuanqing laughed and transmitted his voice. Bamboo Moon, have you been outside for so long that you've forgotten about the Chaos Ruins? Zhu Pengyi aside, in the vast universe, there are many young powerhouses with heaven-defying cultivation. However, only a handful of them are worthy of our Sky Bamboo's attention. What does this have to do with me? Bamboo Moon's expression was cold. She replied, I've already said that I won't leave. Zhu Yuanqing's expression was ugly. After all, he was a half-step almighty. He had personally come to ask Bamboo Moon to return to the clan. However, Bamboo Moon didn't even give him face. I don't care what you want to do, but you should know a little about the rumors about the Ancestral Hall. You should know the consequences. Zhu Yuanqing shouted angrily. The Ancestral Hall has been chasing after the Burial Realm for countless years. Has it changed anything? Our clan doesn't need to get involved in this kind of trouble. The Ancestral Hall situation isn't as simple as it seems. Aren't you afraid that I'll implicate the clan? Bamboo Moon transmitted her voice coldly. Otherwise, why would you come here? I almost died back then. If not for Su Yan, I would have died. No matter how great the favor is, it's already been repaid. I was appointed by the old ancestor to let you return to the clan. Zhu Yuanqing transmitted his voice. The Chaos Ruins' secret realms are about to open. There are even some incomplete ancient universes inside. Zhu Yuanqing's eyes flashed with passion. This was an amazing opportunity. To be honest, even the Almighty would be envious. However, some of the incomplete universes were on the verge of collapse. Once powerful cultivators entered, these secret realms would most likely be destroyed. The restrictions were great, but those who could enter were the strongest among the strongest. Only immortal realm experts have the qualifications to compete for these amazing opportunities. You do have the qualifications. After all, you have the Stellar Moon physique. When you return to the clan will definitely pay a price to help you unlock the potential of the Stellar Moon physique. Zhu Yuanqing smiled faintly. I've received information that even the Chaos Stone Pagoda will surface. With your talent, you should be able to obtain some opportunities. The competition for the strongest creation of this era has already begun. It's enough to affect the future of the universe. Aren't you tempted? If other young experts had received this news, they would have been so excited that their blood would have boiled. They would have fought for such an opportunity. However, the prerequisite was that their clan was strong enough to compete for the qualifications. With the strength of the Sky Bamboo lineage, this opportunity was not difficult. These opportunities were fought for by their ancestors. In the eyes of the Sky Bamboo lineage, the Burial Realm's influence was already gone. It was impossible for them to control these resource secret realms. They had also lost the ability to compete in the future. Therefore, no matter how strong Su Yan was now, reaching the top of the pyramid was just a fool's dream in their eyes. Brat, I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. What are you standing here for? Are you waiting for me to kill you? At this moment, Zhu Pengyi had already crossed to the Big Dipper. Even in front of the three Divine King, Zhu Pengyi's expression did not change. He was full of confidence. He had a giant force behind him. Even the top clans had to give him face. What are you talking about? Make your move. Su Yan's expression turned cold. He looked at Zhu Pengyi and said coldly, Since you are Bamboo Moon's subordinate, I will give you face and not kill you. What are you talking about? Zhu Pengyi's expression turned ugly. He was a dignified disciple of the Sky Bamboo lineage. Although he was not considered one of the top few, he was still famous in the Chaos Ruins. Zhu Pengyi had cultivated for thousands of years and rarely met opponents. Moreover, he did not put Su Yan in his eyes at all. However, Su Yan's tone now made his expression extremely ugly. Su Yan even said that he was Bamboo Moon's subordinate. This made Zhu Pengyi's expression even gloomier. Make your move. Su Yan waved at him impatiently. Kid, you really don't know fear. Zhu Pengyi's expression was a little sinister. After all, he was a celestial god. Even though his strength had been suppressed to the great Tao realm, he still looked down on Lin Fan. He said coldly, I don't care what your relationship with Miss Bamboo Moon is, but there are some people you can't associate with. He knew very well why the family let a half-step mighty figure take the lead. They took Bamboo Moon away because of other reasons. With Bamboo Moon's status and appearance in the Sky Bamboo lineage, she could marry into a super powerful clan. Of course, the targets of these marriages were naturally the proud sons of heaven who ran rampant in the Chaos Ruins. They were truly invincible young giants. Any one of them could cause a bloody storm, and these people would be the trump cards of the Chaos Ruins in the future. They could rule some mystic realms and incomplete universes. Therefore, their status was too high. Therefore, Zhu Pengyi was polite to Bamboo Moon and addressed her as Mississippi Kid. "Don't be jealous of me," Su Yin said disdainfully. "B** starred, a rising star of a declining family dares to be so presumptuous in front of me. If I don't suppress you, I won't know my place." Zhu Pengyi was furious. Killing intent spread in his eyes, and golden flames burned in his body. His aura instantly became terrifying as he charged forward. His entire palm seemed to have turned into a peerless killing sword, spewing out sword rays one after another. They emitted the profound meaning of the sword that could make one's body split apart. What a terrifying sword intent! Zhu Pengyi seems to have turned into a killing holy sword. Many people sensed it. The sound of swords reverberated in the Big Dipper. It was as if thousands of killing swords had been unsheathed. The sword intent was sky-high, and its offensive power was unparalleled. It blasted towards Su Yin. Su Yin's body was dyed in blood. The light in his eyes was terrifying. He waved his hand at Zhu Pengyi and said, "You're too fast. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had the chance." Zhu Pengyi's sword-like eyebrows reached his temples. His entire body seemed to have turned into an immortal sword embryo. Su Yan's voice caused him to fly into a rage. The moment he rushed over, the area he was in was riddled with holes. This was the endless sword light that followed his fist, emitting a might that could split the world. However, when the thousands of sword lights were about to chop down on Su Yin, Zhu Pengyi discovered that there was an abnormally terrifying fluctuation awakening in the world. It was as if a demonic god was traversing the skies, surveying the world as if he was the sole sovereign. Boom! Su Yan's aura was completely different. His hair hung loose behind him as he pressed forward. With every raise of his hand, the world shook and the universe rumbled. The sword fist and Su Yan's fist collided, causing the world to shake. Su Yin punched out 3 times in succession, each fist stronger than the last. Finally, he faced the sky and roared, his aura soaring into the starry skies. Chapter 657. The sky was filled with smoke and dust as rocks and soil soared into the sky. Su Yan's 3 consecutive punches pierced through the void and surged endlessly, causing the rivers and mountains to tremble. Many mountain rocks flew up into the sky and smashed the clouds in all directions. Blood splattered high into the air, accompanied by the sound of bones cracking. The sound reverberated in all directions, causing one's hair to stand on end. Everyone saw that when Zhu Pengyi, whose sword intent was shocking, rushed towards Su Yin, he was struck by 3 consecutive punches from Su Yin. The sword radiance on his body exploded, and his flesh was torn apart. He flew out uncontrollably and landed heavily on the ground. His broken body began to bleed. The surrounding people were dumbfounded and tongue-tied. The onlookers were stunned and didn't know what to say. The entire world was silent. Even the various gods were speechless. What kind of situation was this? Zhu Pengyi had just humiliated Su Yin, but now, the injured Su Yin charged forward and beat Zhu Pengyi until he couldn't stand up and kept coughing up blood. The whole place was in an uproar. Many people didn't know what to say. They originally thought that Zhu Pengyi was strong enough. No matter how weak he was still a young overlord. But now, it seemed that he was too weak to withstand a single blow from Su Yin. Even Zhu Yuanqing's expression froze. One could vaguely see that his old face had turned black. He was so angry that his lips had turned green. Their heavenly bamboo lineage came with great fanfare, wanting to take away the Big Dipper Star Lord. They even belittled the Burial Realms race and looked down on their younger generation cultivators. But now, Zhu Pengyi and Su Yin were fighting at the same level. Zhu Pengyi didn't even have time to make a second move before he was sent flying by Su Yan. This was too much of a slap in the face. Even a half-step mighty figure like him felt humiliated. What strong potential. This young man is very strong. Only my race's young paragon can suppress him. The young experts of the heavenly bamboo lineage who came with Zhu Pengyi changed their expressions. They were well aware of Zhu Pengyi's combat strength. It wasn't that Zhu Pengyi was too weak, but that Su Yan's combat strength was too terrifying. He was like a ferocious dragon in human form. They were all wondering if they could withstand 3 punches at the same level. They felt that this was a peerless figure of the younger generation. If he didn't fall, his future achievements would be great. He's too weak. He dares to challenge big senior brother? Horses and pigs don't think their faces are too big. What a joke. Sounds of discussion could be heard. Someone pursed his lips and said, "He is indeed weak. He dares to belittle eldest senior brother like this. I think the geniuses of the primal chaos ruins are only SOSO. He is only slightly stronger than the Purple Jade King." When the Purple Jade King, who was watching from the sidelines, heard this, his expression turned frighteningly ugly. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood, unable to forget the scene of him sending Su Yan flying with a single slap. Not bad. He's still like a man. Xiao and the other 2 laughed. They were extremely shocked by Su Yan's potential. They felt that Su Yan was still holding back and hadn't used his full strength. They couldn't help but think that the Buried Region's race might have a heavenly paragon in the future. Heavenly paragons. They possessed absolutely terrifying divine might in the younger generation. Every heavenly paragon had a peerless foundation. They were unrivaled in their generation and were known as the world's strongest geniuses. Now they saw hope in Su Yan. Zhu Pengyi let out a furious roar in a pool of blood. He was like a wounded beast that crawled up. His weakened battle physique spread out. His blood chi overflowed. His aura was so bitter that it tore apart the sky. Zhu Pengyi was so angry that his heart and liver were about to burst. He let out a series of angry roars and climbed from the great Tao realm to the heavenly deity realm. His entire body emitted an extremely cold, killing intent. He had suffered too much. He didn't know how he would be mocked when he returned to his family. "If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Xiao's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness. The killing intent released by the Divine King was like a basin of cold water being poured on Zhu Pengyi. It made him feel cold all over. The flames of anger in his body plummeted. He felt like he was facing a prehistoric beast. Xiao's expression was cold. His figure was tall and big. He didn't look old at all. On the contrary, his divine might overflowed the sky. His body was burning like a cosmic furnace. Just the blood chi gushing out of his pores was enough to make Zhu Pengyi's heavenly deity body explode. One could imagine how strong Xiao was. He intimidated Zhu Pengyi to the point that he trembled. His body staggered and was about to fall to the ground. "Bastard, you dare to bully my race's young disciples? Do you not know your place?" Zhu Yuanqing's expression was cold, causing the starry sky to tremble. An abnormally heavy aura sunk as it rushed towards the Big Dipper. "Sky Bamboo lineage, you sure talk big." Xiao sneered. If it was a mighty, he would show some respect. However, the 3 of them were half-step mighty. They weren't afraid of Xiao at all. "This isn't about talking big. My race has been glorious for epoch after epoch and has never declined. This is a symbol of strength," Zhu Yuanqing said coldly. "As for your race in the burial realm, it has long declined." The combat strength of a half-step mighty was extremely strong. Zhu Yuanqing's cold, killing intent pressed down violently. However, given the current situation in the Big Dipper constellation, even almighties could not break in, let alone a half-step almighty like Zhu Yuanqing. His divine power source was instantly blocked by Zhu Yu. "You want to stop me?" Zhu Yuanqing's eyes widened in anger. He was like a peerless overlord who had awakened. His golden robe shone brightly, setting off his peerless divine might. "Grandpa Xiao, don't be anxious. Let me deal with him." However, Su Yin spoke. Just this sentence alone angered the experts from the sky bamboo lineage. Zhu Yuanqing was so angry that the corners of his eyes were about to burst. He was a celestial god, but Su Yin, a great Dao realm cultivator, dared to say such words. What did you say? Zhu Pingyi clenched his fists. He couldn't suppress his killing intent. Even if the divine king was in front of him, Zhu Pingyi couldn't stand Su Yan's words. Zhu Yuanqing's face was gloomy. The aura of a half-step mighty was becoming more and more oppressive. Thunderous sounds reverberated between heaven and earth, filling the sky. He couldn't help but want to attack and teach the divine king of the burial realm a lesson. Don't you want to kill me? Su Yin stood between heaven and earth. His blood-stained hair fluttered in the wind as he said to Zhu Pingyi, "Go ahead and attack. I don't want people to say that I'm bullying the weak and don't know my place." Zhu Yuanqing was furious. His golden robe fluttered loudly, and his entire body emitted a raging fury. He had never thought that a junior like Su Yin would dare to do such a thing. He even wanted to fight a celestial god. "Senior, please don't take offense." Kuan Tianyu walked over and smiled apologetically. The Burial Realm clan is no longer the Burial Realm clan of the past. After a long time, the clan has declined beyond recognition. They don't understand the structure of the universe, let alone the current strength and glory of the sky bamboo lineage. Hearing this, Zhu Yuanqing's expression eased a little. He said coldly, "That's true. The chaos ruins are where the experts gather." However, some people wanted to stand out and say something. After all, Su Yin had killed Zitai. That was a celestial god's death. Although he had relied on the heavenly cycle starry sky formation, Su Yin really had the power to deal with a celestial god. However, they held back and didn't say anything in the end. Things had already reached this point. If a celestial god were to retreat, it would be a huge loss of face. Roar! Zhu Pingyi looked up to the sky and let out a long roar. His anger was self-evident. He wanted nothing more than to tear Su Yin apart. His flesh shell emitted a loud sound. This was the sound of essence, blood flowing. It was even more deafening than thunder. A celestial being can kill you like a dog. However, Zhu Pingyi didn't use the power of a celestial being in the end. He erupted his battle strength to the celestial being realm and released flames of anger. It was as if he had turned into a peerless sword embryo that could split the sky. Some people couldn't bear to watch, especially the disciples of Hokuto. They curled their lips. Just a while ago, Su Yin had killed a celestial being from the Kuan family with a punch. Although Zhu Pengyi's battle strength was strong, he didn't use the power of a celestial being no matter how strong he was. Boom! He rushed over. His entire body was filled with thousands of sword gleams. They converged into a sword ocean that was suffused with the aura of a celestial being. In an instant, he slashed over and forcefully ripped apart space. He ruthlessly bombarded Su Yan's head. He was extremely brutal. He wanted to tear Su Yin into pieces. He believed that even if he killed Su Yin, the three divine kings wouldn't dare to make things difficult for him with the strength of the heavenly bamboo lineage. However, when all of this swooped down on Su Yin, the body of this calm young man standing upright in front of him blazed. Flames shot out in all directions. Strands of exceptionally tyrannical essence blood poured out. "Scram!" Su Yin shouted coldly. In the face of the oncoming sword gleams, Su Yan's expression didn't change. He waved his fist as if he was standing in the future and waving his fist. He stood upright on a grand and vast golden path. Thousands of great Daos appeared in the sky, setting off Su Yin as if he was the master of all Daos. Su Yin and the others' eyes widened infinitely. They were overjoyed. This was the power of the beginning sutra. Even now, Su Yin had begun to gather domains and evolve his own great Dao heavenly road. His future achievements were limitless. What? Everyone turned pale. They saw Su Yan's roar shaking the rivers and mountains. His essence blood was too terrifying. The earth in the distance trembled. Among them, mountains were shattered by his roar. His fist seemed to run through time and space. An indiscriminate attack poured out. The great Tao domain gathered on his fist. With the profound meaning of the Fist of Time, he pierced through time and space and hammered Zhu Pengyi's body. Ah! Zhu Pengyi screamed miserably. This fist caused him to tremble. A large flower of blood bloomed in the void as he was sent flying far away. The entire audience was in an uproar. This indiscriminate fist technique once again displayed a world-shaking heavenly might. It bombarded Zhu Pengyi's body, causing his injuries to worsen. It was as if he had been hacked apart by thousands of Daos. He looked extremely miserable. However, the sword gleams that filled the sky attacking Su Yan were blocked by the rich source strength of a star domain. Dying! Before the spectators could recover from their shock, Su Yan rushed over. His aura soared into the starry skies. His eyes were like lightning as they tore through the night sky. Boom! Chapter 658. The Fist of Time's profoundness reached the heavens. It was related to time and space, so it shouldn't be something that Su Yan could grasp with his current domain. However, he still managed to unleash a might that was invincible in the same realm as him. In terms of mystical powers, the 9 strongest mystical powers in history were naturally the most terrifying. They were invincible in all major domains. If the Fist of Time continued to grow with Su Yan, it might not be invincible in the future. However, the Fist of Time was already shocking enough. It blasted Zhu Pengyi's body until it was about to shatter. He suffered a heavy blow and was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. His consciousness was blurry, and he was about to faint. This scene shocked everyone in the surroundings so much that they were speechless. He was a great Tao realm elite, after all, yet he could unleash such vast divine power. Just now, everyone could see that Su Yan didn't circulate the source power of the star field when he attacked. However, he still managed to crush Zhu Pengyi. The beginning sutra, the strongest sutra in the history of our race, will shine brilliantly on Su Yan's body. He must return to the later progenitor and continue to study it. That's right. I'm looking forward to how strong the beginning sutra will be in the future. Xiaohou and the others were very excited. No matter how strong Su Yan's battle prowess was now, it would be extremely difficult for him to grow without a corresponding foundation in the future. Meanwhile, the beginning sutra would definitely help Su Yan to become a peerless elite who could shoulder great responsibilities in the future. They couldn't help but feel that their choice back then was correct. The beginning sutra had been obtained from the later progenitor, so there had to be other opportunities in the later progenitor. They were all relatively ancient and difficult to trace back to. Inconceivable. Everyone was in an uproar. Zhu Pengyi, an elite of the younger generation, was sent flying by Su Yan just like that. This was the second time he had been attacked by lightning. Now he, Zhu Pengyi, was standing in the realm of gods. They could also see that Su Yan's body was too astonishing and abnormally terrifying. His blood essence surged like an immortal divine furnace burning, illuminating heaven and earth. However, when Su Yan took the initiative to attack and charge toward Zhu Pengyi, the energy field he released alarmed the spectating elites. Kill! Su Yan let out a long roar. He gathered the original power of the star area and evolved the Big Dipper Fist. This awakened ancient life star trembled as if a supreme expert was waving his fist, suppressing the brilliance of all matter in this world. This is too frightening. Could it be that he wants to kill heavenly deities? Some of the old-timers' expressions changed. Of course, most of them were shocked by Su Yan's current strength. He had dared to kill heavenly gods, and had even attacked with lightning speed. Most importantly, he had taken advantage of the moment when Zhu Pengyi was seriously injured. Zhu Pengyi struggled in a pool of blood. Su Yan had dealt him a heavy blow just now, and now the ancient and terrifying power of the Big Dipper was bearing down on him. Just the strongest spiritual will alone was enough to make Zhu Pengyi tremble. This was the essence, energy, and spirit that originated from the Big Dipper. It emitted the strongest aura, and even Zhu Pengyi found it difficult to use his strength to resist. He even felt that even if he used his strength, it would be very difficult to stop the current Su Yin. "Don't kill him," Bamboo Moon spoke up. She stood in the Big Dipper Pagoda, her elegance unparalleled, and her voice was gentle and moving. Zhu Yuanqing's expression was so ugly that no one dared to look at him directly. His body emitted waves of frightening fluctuations. What kind of situation was this? He had been defeated too miserably, and he had lost all his face. He had even lost to a descendant of a declining clan. He even needed Bamboo Moon to speak up to save Zhu Pengyi's life. He felt that he had lost all his face. Although Zhu Pengyi was not a peak existence in the Sky Bamboo lineage, he had still been defeated miserably. Moreover, he had faced a great Dao realm cultivator. Although Su Yin had borrowed external strength, the disparity between the two of them was still there. The fist came head-on, but it finally stopped. Zhu Pengyi fell heavily to the ground. He was about to faint. This young great Dao realm expert in front of him caused him to feel a chill in his heart. In the Big Dipper Pagoda, it was impossible for him to block Su Yin, even if he erupted with his strongest power. Everyone turned pale. A young heaven deity of a generation had been defeated just like that. They even suspected that if Bamboo Moon had not spoken up, would Su Yin have killed Zhu Pengyi? "For Bamboo Moon's sake, I won't kill you. You can leave now." Su Yin stood in the void and waved his hand at Zhu Pengyi as if he was shooing away a fly. B*****. Zhu Pengyi's expression was so malevolent that it was almost distorted. He wanted nothing more than to find a hole to burrow into. This was too embarrassing. When he returned to his clan, he did not know how to face his clan's elders. After all, the Sky Bamboo lineage was a leviathan in the Chaos Ruins. If news of their clan's heaven deity being defeated by a great Dao realm cultivator spread out, it would cause a huge commotion. Their clan would also lose all their face. The world was somewhat quiet. The lofty heaven deity had lost his fighting spirit. Zhu Pengyi was in a daze. "Get out of my way." Zhu Yuanqing could not hold back the anger in his heart. He berated Bamboo Moon with great dignity. The golden robes he wore fluttered loudly. Even his body was agitated. As he inhaled and exhaled, the vast starry sky dimmed. Bamboo Moon stood at the peak of the Big Dipper Tower. She was also standing at the peak of the Big Dipper constellation. She was peerlessly beautiful, and the sound of the Tao was transmitted from her body, causing the entire Big Dipper stellar region to light up. Extremely vast energy fluctuations surged as she said indifferently, "All of you can leave. I'll consider it once the matter with the Big Dipper sect is settled. It's not up to you to consider. This is the clan's order. If you go against it, you know the consequences." Zhu Yuanqing was already unhappy. Now, Bamboo Moon did not give him any face. This made Zhu Yuanqing very angry. Waves of boundless and powerful aura surged from his body. He was already showing signs of making a move. "If you ask the people of the Ancestral Hall to leave, I can consider it now." Bamboo Moon spoke again. Zhu Yuanqing's expression changed slightly. There was a murderous look in his eyes. Bamboo Moon did not take his words seriously. He knew very well that the Ancestral Hall had been chasing the Buried Region clan. Now that the clan's almighty was here, how could they let the three divine king leave? Before he came, he had even heard that the Buried Region clan had massacred the Ancestral Hall's starry sky path. This matter could not be resolved. "Elder Yuanqing, you leave first." The Ancestral Hall's ancestor was filled with killing intent. He had already lost his patience and would not let the Sky Bamboo clan waste too much time. He had already given them face. As a member of the Sky Bamboo clan, you don't listen to the clan's orders. Zhu Yuanqing's aura suddenly became terrifying. Under the horrifying gazes of the surrounding people, he waved his big hand, and a pitch-black painting scroll unfolded. Hundreds of millions of Dao sounds gushed out, and the scene was monstrous. What kind of supreme treasure is that? The spectators were shocked because the entire Big Dipper starfield was covered by the pitch-black scroll. The movement of this supreme treasure made everyone's hair stand on end. This was a very special treasure. It was as if it had suppressed the entire Big Dipper starfield. Domain-shaking scroll. The Kuensang region was pleasantly surprised. This was a rare supreme treasure. Once used, it could suppress an entire starfield. The divine king of the ancestral hall and the Kuan family took advantage of the moment when the Big Dipper starfield was suppressed to rush toward the Big Dipper star. Even the figure of the ancestral hall's almighty became blurry. When he used the domain shaking scroll to suppress the Big Dipper starfield, he also rushed toward the Big Dipper star. "Bastard old thing, how dare you attack me?" Bamboo Moon was furious. The domain shaking scroll was terrifying, but the Big Dipper starfield was not an ordinary supreme treasure. When it shook, it was like a terrifying lion. It shattered the domain shaking scroll into pieces. Some people turned pale and regretful. This was a replica and not the real thing. However, it was a pity that it was destroyed. But before this, the moment the domain-shaking scroll was used, Bamboo Moon exploded with the strongest power of the Big Dipper starfield to resist the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor. Although the starfield's power was suppressed, there were still many forces in the Big Dipper starfield that rushed toward the Almighty. In the process, the power of order collided. It was like two universes colliding, giving birth to a world-destroying storm. It swept through the starry sky and shattered countless stars in the universe. In a short moment of brilliance, the boundless Big Dipper starfield was shaken into many large cracks. However, the endless killing power released by the starfield resisted the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor. However, it was not enough. The ancestral hall's ancient ancestor was about to rush toward the Big Dipper star when the domain-shaking scroll exploded. An even stronger force attacked the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor. Zhu Yuanqing's face was gloomy. This was a supreme treasure that he controlled. It was destroyed just like that. His heart ached. However, he also helped the ancestral hall. Even if Bamboo Moon and the ancestral hall became enemies, it would not implicate the heavenly bamboo lineage. After all, the various rare, secret realms in the Chaos Ruins were about to open. At this juncture, if the two behemoths fought to the death, it would only benefit the experts of other races. This is bad. The Big Dipper fairy blocked the Almighty, but she could not stop the five divine king. They took out the heavenly refining furnace and rushed into the Big Dipper star. Someone turned pale. Look, the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor is angry. He is using his own power to resist the starfield. This way, the Big Dipper starfield will not be able to interfere with the five Almighty. Moreover, they have the heavenly refining furnace. Bamboo Moon controlled the Big Dipper star pagoda and used all her power to block the Almighty. Once the Almighty rushed into the Big Dipper star, the consequences would be dire. However, with Bamboo Moon's current power, she could only block the Almighty. She could not spare any extra power to stop the five divine king. This disaster is too severe. Can the buried realms race kill their way out? The chances are not high at all. Didn't you see the ancestral hall's ancient ancestor going all out and erupting with such a terrifying source of power? This is also a great loss to him. I think so. Their target is Su Yin. I really don't know how important Su Yin is to make the ancestral hall pay such a great price to deal with him. The distant spectators felt their limbs go cold. This kind of battle had far exceeded their expectations. They could not understand the process of the battle because the Big Dipper starfield was resisting the Almighty. A storm of destruction swept out as the power of order burned. The terrifying battle shook the heavens and the earth. The awakened Big Dipper starfield and the Almighty's aura clashed continuously. Kill, Xiaoho, and the others continued to recover. They were like three gods and demons taking out large bone clubs. The battle between the Divine King and the Big Dipper began just like that. If the Big Dipper star was not the most powerful ancient star, it would not be able to withstand such a battle. Boom! The battle continued to heat up. After all, the heavenly refining furnace was powerful enough. Xiaoho and the others had already retreated into the demonic mist. It was obvious that Xiaoho and the others wanted to send Su Yin away. Only then could they go all out and have no more worries. Su Yan's eyes were red. When he was young, his family's elders had worked together to carve out a bloody path for him to return home. Chapter 659. This is a battle between the pinnacle, a battle between two Almighties. Even the surrounding starfields are affected. The Almighties are too strong. They can clash with the former pinnacle starfields, as expected of the peak experts of a universe. The resplendent light produced here illuminated the sea of stars. Even the experts from the distant starfields could see the boundless divine light emanating from the Big Dipper starfield. This was a peerless battle between the Almighties and the starfields. The ripples were like the sea, drowning the surrounding starfields. Apart from the two parties, the surrounding matter exploded and was destroyed. Many cultivators were still able to evade, but were torn to pieces by the sweeping light beams. The intensity of this battle was indescribable. The intense collision was deafening, as though the gods of war were fighting. They all saw the boundless magical power of the ancestral hall's ancestor. His power penetrated the vast starfield, his body like the universe, spreading down the power of billions of universes. This was the eruption of the Almighties. Their foundation had recovered to fight against the Big Dipper starfield. From this, one could see how powerful the Big Dipper starfield was. Bamboo Moon used the Big Dipper starfield's Big Dipper pagoda to gather the strongest power of the Big Dipper starfield, erupting with endless starlight. It could be said that two giants were fighting and clashing here. The energy ripples were too dense, rolling and surging toward the surrounding starfields. Not good. Stop. Stop. The experts of the Heavenly Mystic sect were scared half to death. The entire Heavenly Mystic starfield was trembling. Many cracks appeared in the starfield, and some ancient planets with life were shattered. Countless creatures were blasted into a mist of blood. This was a great disaster. Their battle was too fierce, and few materials could withstand it. Moreover, the cultivators living on these shattered ancient planets were blasted into a mist of blood. What was the meaning of this? They could easily destroy a planet and destroy countless creatures. It could be said that from the beginning of the battle until now, the vast starfield had been dyed red with blood. This was a real scene. The sea of blood was drifting, and corpses were strewn across millions of miles. It was even crueler than purgatory in the mortal world. The commotion was too great. The Almighties are too strong. I really hope Su Yin can escape. He will one day become an Almighty and avenge our dead clansmen. The crux of the problem now is, can the Big Dipper constellation withstand the mighty figures? All the ancient planets of life in the Big Dipper constellation were shaking constantly. Many creatures had died in the chaos. Fortunately, the Big Dipper constellation was strong enough. When it recovered, it could be said to be a supreme treasure that had fused into one. Even with the power of an Almighty, it was extremely difficult to shatter the ancient planets of life in the Big Dipper constellation. Of course, the most important thing was that the source of Bamboo Moon's power was concentrated on the Big Dipper. The Big Dipper was full of destructive storms. If it wasn't for its toughness, it would have been shattered a long time ago. Buzz, the Ancestral Hall's great expert, was becoming more and more terrifying. Blood radiance gushed out from his pores, making even the heavenly deities tremble. His revived foundation continued to strengthen. He brandished his large hand to attack Big Dipper Starfield, each attack akin to millions and millions of universes crashing down. The power of the Ancestral Hall's great expert was concentrated on the Big Dipper Pagoda. Bamboo Moon stood in the middle of the Big Dipper constellation. This stone pagoda seemed to have become the link of the Big Dipper constellation. With every breath, the entire Big Dipper constellation glowed. The divine power of the star sea converged and penetrated the Big Dipper pagoda. The scene was frightening. The power of the ancient star sea erupted. Even the divine king trembled in the face of such a peerless suppression. It contained the power of order in the constellation and continuously attacked the Ancestral Hall's great expert. If the Big Dipper constellation was at its peak, even the Ancestral Hall's great expert wouldn't be able to shake it easily unless he carried a supreme treasure and killed his way in. Zhu Yuanqing thought to himself. The Big Dipper constellation had suffered heavy losses over the years. It wasn't like the Z-Way constellation, which had always been strong and had the help of the strongest ancient planet, the Great Daozu lineage. On the other hand, the Big Dipper constellation's ancestral bloodline was only left with a portion of the ancestral bloodline. Su Yin was very clear that the Big Dipper ancestral bloodline was currently in the space of Heavenly Mountain. But even so, the great experts could only shake the Big Dipper constellation. They couldn't crush the Big Dipper constellation in a single move. Use your trump cards to protect our clan and resist the enemy. Liang Ziqing let out a long roar. The three heavenly deities joined forces to bring out a star that was as huge as an abyss. The moment it was unleashed, the stars seemed to have transformed into a giant universe that surged with a monstrous saint aura. This was the saint weapon of a great expert being brought out. Light shone for millions of zhang like the world's most resplendent star. How could a slumbering, ancient, great expert awaken? Kill. Hokuto's trump cards were unleashed. Divine light shot out in all directions, emitting a soul-shaking airflow. Shocking scenes appeared one after another. The Big Dipper constellation had accumulated for millions of years. 3 layers of great Tao Saint aura rushed out from the vast Big Dipper constellation. These were the saint weapons of the great experts of the 3 sects that had awakened from their slumber. One of the divine spears focused on killing. It was like a battle spear refined by Gu Xinghe. It surged with an unparalleled killing intent, and surged with great Tao Saint aura. It was as if a great expert was attacking with a divine spear that could pierce through an ancient planet. The other sect's saint sword was the Big Dipper sword. It was a great killing weapon that had shaken the universe a long time ago. The sword's body was burning, and it was like the condensed Big Dipper constellation. It erupted with rays of sword light that reached the heavens. The Big Dipper sword, the Big Dipper divine spear, and the Big Dipper constellation. These were the 3 saint weapons of a great expert. They surged with boundless divine might and instantly resisted the various energy fluctuations from the ancestral hall's great expert. They suppressed the Big Dipper constellation and prevented the losses from being too great. Kill. True flames surged in the great expert's heart. He spoke with killing intent, and his words were like laws. The universe trembled and the great Tao wailed. It was like a saint's sword had descended from the immortal domain to slay millions of lives. Boom! An ancient seal was awakened along with the ancestral hall's great ancestor. This was his life artifact that pushed the might of a great expert to a terrifying level. He descended from the sky, and his body seemed to have turned into an immortal seal that smashed towards the Big Dipper constellation. The Big Dipper constellation's foundation is quite strong. It would be better for Bamboo Moon to stay here. In the future, won't the Big Dipper constellation become the private property of my Sky Bamboo lineage? Zhu Yuanqing thought to himself. He felt that there was a great chance. After all, the foundation accumulated by the Hokuto for generations couldn't be underestimated. The present Bamboo Moon doesn't listen to discipline. But in the future, when the heroes rise and the young overlords rise, the era of the struggle for supremacy will come. She will understand how glorious it is to rise among them. Zhu Yuanqing had seen the Hokuto's foundation and change his mind. It wasn't so easy to swallow the foundation of a great sect that had been around for 1,000,000 years. How can this be? Everyone look. The onlookers were shocked. That was because a black fog suddenly spread out from the struggle for supremacy on the Big Dipper. It expanded at an unimaginable speed and formed a terrifying black demonic abyss. It was as if purgatory had opened and devoured one's marrow. It was so gloomy and cold that it made one's skin and bones tremble. Demonic fog. Zhu Yuanqing's expression suddenly changed. His race was established in the chaos ruins and was well aware of the mysterious and sinister demonic fog. Once it appeared, it meant death. Moreover, there were many broken universes in the chaos ruins that contained an immeasurable amount of demonic fog. Even someone as strong as him, a half-step great expert, didn't dare to trespass. This also led to many rare treasures, divine medicines, peerless inheritances, ancient heavenly arts, and other treasures that people yearned for in their dreams. They were all buried in the demonic fog and were extremely difficult to dig out. However, the demonic fog only appeared in the chaos ruins. Why would it appear on the Big Dipper? Zhu Yuanqing's expression was uncertain. Could the collapse of the Big Dipper be related to the demonic fog's erosion? The ancestral hall's almighty expert's expression also turned cold because there was too much demonic fog. Back then, he was the source of the turmoil in the divine spiritual mountain range and encountered various incidents. Finally, he joined forces with the various pinnacle races and used his methods to seal the bipolar star. However, he also encountered a massive amount of demonic fog here. The ancestral hall's almighty expert's expression turned gloomy. His goal was Su Yin. If Su Yin was buried in the demonic fog, everything would be for naught. Bastard scram! The almighty expert let out a loud roar. His voice was so loud that it spread throughout the vast starry sky. Instantly, thousands of creatures were bathed in blood and exploded into smithereens. His aura was boundless, like a giant overlooking a star domain. His might reached the heavens as he emitted billions of layers of blood light. Like lightning, he struck down on the Big Dipper constellation. Under the almighty expert's rage, the heavens and earth exploded as the world evaporated into a giant black hole. Even though the almighty experts of the three sects used their sacred weapons and the Big Dipper constellation's strength to resist, under the almighty expert's rage, some heavenly gods' corporeal bodies were torn apart. They were almost killed by the almighty expert's strength. "Gather!" Bamboo Moon shouted angrily. Her starry eyes emitted an ominous glint as she gathered the power of the Big Dipper to suppress the star domain that was about to be breached. At the same time, she turned her head to look at the demonic fog world. That place had completely changed. It was as if an independent space-time had floated out. The black fog was so dense that even the Divine King's aura was somewhat suppressed. This was too fierce. The Divine King was covered by the sinister aura of the demonic fog. Even the Divine King's furnace was about to be extinguished. Everyone knew that the demonic fog targeted people. It was a competition based on the level of their realm and foundation. The stronger one's cultivation was, the more demonic fog they would encounter. On the other hand, the weaker ones would encounter less demonic fog. However, if their foundation wasn't enough, they would still fall at extremely fast speed. Bastard kill. Those from the Kunkang region were furious. The entire world was occupied by the demonic fog, and they couldn't see anything clearly. They shot out the heaven-refining furnace and evaporated a large amount of the demonic fog. However, the demonic fog couldn't burn anything away. Although they saw the traces of Xiahou and the rest, what they wanted was Su Yin, a living Su Yin. After a series of battles, Su Yin was already injured. However, he took the opportunity to rush into the depths of the demonic fog space. The broken cauldron above his head shone constantly. This cauldron became more and more extraordinary as it absorbed the demonic fog that was invading Su Yin. Moreover, under the refinement of the broken cauldron, the demonic fog formed strands of black energy. This was a very strange substance. It was actually swallowed by the broken cauldron and contained within the cauldron. The broken cauldron became more and more simple and majestic. Su Yin even discovered some ancient traces on the walls of the cauldron. It was like the patterns on the walls of the cauldron that had disappeared before. Those were some flowers, birds, fish, insects, birds, beasts, primordial people. Chapter 660. The Broken Cauldron glowed. The light was not brilliant, but it was very bright. It sprinkled down a hazy light. On the cauldron wall, many pictures of the cauldron wall that had disappeared in the past appeared. These are the pictures on the cauldron in the past, but they had disappeared a long time ago. Perhaps they had begun to cease to exist after it was broken. Now, because it had absorbed too much of the devil mist, it caused ancient pictures to flash on the cauldron wall. Flowers, birds, fish, insects, birds, beasts, and spiritual mountains were all relatively ordinary creatures. However, They were vivid on the cauldron wall, as if they were living creatures that were swimming around. They existed in the world within the cauldron wall. It was very ordinary, but it was also very magical. Not only this, the cauldron wall seemed to be carrying a mysterious world. There were flowers, birds, fish, insects, birds, beasts, and even some ancient ancestors. The cauldron wall seemed to be carrying all things. It was impossible to see different pictures, but it could display a magical scene. The cauldron seemed to have recovered some of its divine power. It began to emit a hazy radiance as it continued to absorb the devil fog. Strands of black fog, this sinister energy that would cause even a god king to pale in fright, seemed like a broken tonic. If this spread out, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Even Xiahou and the others found it hard to believe. They originally thought that it was impossible to break in, but Su Yin said that he had a mysterious treasure that could absorb the devil mist. At first, they did not believe it, but when Su Yin took out the broken cauldron, they believed it. It's very likely to be our race's ancestral weapon. Otherwise, it would not have such strong power. Xiahou thought so. After all, the broken cauldron was obtained by Su Yin from Earth. It was found in a unique layout in Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Su Yin still remembered the 49 dragon pillars. Even when he explored Emperor Qin's mausoleum, Su Yin still remembered that there was a treasure hidden in the depths. He could not see what it was. If he could smoothly return to Earth, he would definitely investigate it. Perhaps it was an ancient treasure from Earth. I hope that little Miss Muddle can return soon. In the future, she will explore the Chaos ruins and become a powerhouse among powerhouses. Yes, our race does not have many people left, and the younger generation is pitifully few. If we cannot break out, our future will be even more bleak. With the ancestral weapon in hand, we can explore the Chaos ruins and reap boundless rewards. Su Dalong said with a smile. Was dangerous. Although there were too many treasures and secrets, Xiahou solemnly held the imprint that Su Yin had given him. This imprint was something that Su Yin had obtained in the divine spiritual mountain range. It was a precious inheritance left behind by a god king who had failed to break through. This item was extremely valuable, and its value was definitely not inferior to that of a saint weapon of a supreme existence. Of course, this was in their eyes. In the eyes of the divine king, who had accumulated a certain amount of resources and was about to try to break through. It was not inferior to a divine king's sacred weapon. Originally, Su Yin had intended to give the imprint to Su Dalong. However, Xiahou, Su Dalong, and Yi Lingtian were the oldest of the three divine kings. He had accumulated a terrifying amount of resources. Therefore, Su Dalong felt that if he gave it to Xiahou, he would have a greater chance. They had once made an oath. The three divine kings would do their best to produce a powerhouse. At the very least, they would produce 2 half-step powerhouses. They had nothing to fight for. Only by increasing their strength could they have hope of contending with the Ancestral Hall in the future. There is nothing to worry about. Little Miss Muddle should be able to find Sky Mountain soon. Then we can have a good fight. At the very least, we must defeat a divine king today. One of the divine kings of the Kuan family must die. The 3 divine kings emitted a bone-chilling aura. Their auras were completely different from before. They were like peerless killing gods with a sea of blood on their backs. They emitted raging flames. They were like killing gods from hell. They did not hide their auras at all. They were like 3 burning, universal, immortal furnaces. Their hair fluttered in the wind, and the aura they emitted was more terrifying than the one before. Could it be that Su Yin is really dead? The group of divine kings erupted in the demonic fog. Xiahou and the others began to fight with their lives on the line. They were wrapped in raging flames and wanted to tear the sky apart. This kind of killing intent and ferocious aura caused the Kuan Song people's expressions to turn ugly. Perhaps because Su Yin had really fallen, the 3 divine kings had gone mad and wanted to kill them all. Xiahou and the others could not return with Su Yin. Otherwise, how could the Hokuto contend with the Ancestral Hall? So they chose to stay and kill a divine king. The divine kings are going all out. The heaven refining cauldron is severely suppressed by the demonic fog. The three divine kings of the buried realm have launched a biting, cold counterattack. Many people were paying attention to the demonic fog world. It was a giant black abyss with visible scenery. Now, the divine kings were surging with killing power, causing the black abyss to boil. All kinds of terrifying beams of light surged out from within. The battle was too intense and caused the spectators to be shocked. In short, the Big Dipper starfield was burning with the flames of war. The two sides were clashing continuously. At this time, Su Yin was already near Mount Tian. He found that the broken cauldron was becoming more and more extraordinary. It was suffused with a kind of heavy aura that caused Su Yin to feel heavy. It was as if it was pressing down on his body. Su Yin was moved. He found that a black world had formed inside the cauldron. It was so deep that it was like a black starry sky. He couldn't see the bottom. There seemed to be life in the black starry sky. There were many illusory shadows floating about. These shadows had some similarities, and it was difficult to distinguish their forms. This caused Su Yin to be very puzzled. The cauldron had changed, but Su Yin still couldn't see through it. Although he could control the broken cauldron, he couldn't understand what kind of strange energy it contained. Our race's ancestral artifact should be an ancestral artifact. Its origin is definitely not ordinary. It's a pity that it's broken. I don't know how to repair it. Even Xiaoho and the others couldn't recognize what material the cauldron was made of. This showed that the broken cauldron was from an ancient era. It could be considered the ancestral artifact of the Zanyu race. Su Yin really didn't know what kind of abilities it had. However, since it had mutated, it meant that there was a chance that the broken cauldron could be restored in the future. Time to go. Su Yin didn't dare to stay here for a moment longer. Although the cauldron could absorb the devil fog, who knew if there were any peerless devils hiding below? Mount Tian, I'm coming. Su Yin took a deep breath. Now that he saw the towering Mount Tian in the dark world, his emotions surged. Su Dalong had already told Su Yin the specific coordinates. Now was the time to return. On the way, Su Yin thought about the old demon he had met here and the Sutra of the Future. He really didn't know how strong the old demon's true body was. I wonder if this is the talisman of the Sutra of the Future? Who exactly left it behind? Su Yin muttered in his heart. He saw the talisman at the entrance of the Big Dipper Palace again. He couldn't help but speculate that Hokuto must have been involved in the calamity that happened in the last universe era. After all, the source of the Big Dipper starfield and the Big Dipper Palace were suppressed here. How strong was the old demon's true body? What does it have to do with the devil fog? While climbing Mount Tian, Su Yin pondered in his heart. He even suddenly recalled the strange white fog that gushed out of his body after the transformation of his primordial spirit. That fog had shocked the old demon greatly. However, because he was in a hurry to enter Mount Tian, Su Yin didn't ask about the details. Su Yin was wondering what secrets he had. Why would an almighty from the ancestral hall pursue him so persistently? Or rather, the person the ancestral hall was looking for wasn't him, but some other child. Su Yin had no idea how many people there were in the burial realm. In order to survive, they could only conceal their identities and accumulate strength. The battle 100 years ago had dealt a heavy blow to the burial realm race. Creak! Su Yin brandished the Big Dipper fist and reopened the Big Dipper Palace. He stepped in and followed the familiar path back to the starry sky. The door to Mount Tian was hidden here. When he arrived at Mount Tian, he saw the big Daozu bloodline of the Big Dipper starfield. The energy was too vigorous and vast. This was the power of the ancestral bloodline that had always existed here. When the Big Dipper starfield's ancestral bloodline returned one day, the accumulation of the Big Dipper starfield would definitely skyrocket. Su Yin took action and intercepted the power of the ancestral bloodline. The power of the Big Dipper ancestral bloodline was inexhaustible. He used various methods to collect the essence of the ancestral bloodline and was about to return to Earth. He felt that this power would be of great help to the current Earth. I can't stay here any longer. It's time to go. Su Yin took a deep breath and entered the ancestral bloodline space. He quickly reached the end and stepped into the space of Mount Tian. He's still here. Su Yin saw the black-robed man again. He was the slave he met in Brilliant City. His strength and mysteriousness were immeasurable. Su Yin even thought of the 24 heavens and the 24 immortal pearls that he had taken away. It was said that this was one of the most precious treasures of the burial realm. The 24 heavens were gradually lost as the burial realm declined and fell into the hands of various great powers. A blurry figure sat cross-legged in front of him, as if he was sitting in another world. It was like an imprint left behind by him, but also like his real body sitting cross-legged on the other side of the world. Su Yin observed for a while, and then looked up at the sky of Mount Tian. Su Yin directly rushed into the dome of Mount Tian, as if he had entered another space-time. Here again, Su Yin had a different feeling. The space of Mount Tian contained an unparalleled space-time power. There were special ancient roads that seemed to lead to any place in the universe. It was like a super teleportation array. However, Su Yin faintly felt that on the other side of the space-time, where Su Yin was, there seemed to be an even more magnificent and terrifying space-time existence. This made him pale. He couldn't help but think, is this the projection of the chaos ruins? However, that space-time seemed to be too far away from the world he was in, although it seemed very close to Mount Tian. Mount Tian is really mysterious. Su Yin took a deep breath. He looked at the space-time he was in, and it was like a huge rift valley. In this great rift valley, taking a single step would mean crossing over to another realm. Let's go. According to the coordinates provided by Su Dalong, Su Yin began to walk in the rift valley. One step was equivalent to stepping into the long river of time and space. Following the space-time path, he stepped on the path of return. Chapter 661. Su Yin left and entered the space-time path. This path was much longer than he had imagined. He didn't know how long he would have to travel through the space-time path, nor did he know how many starfields he would have to cross. In short, Su Yin was going home, back to Earth. Su Yin had left, but all kinds of major events were spreading throughout the universe. The clash between the ancestral Hall's ancestor and the Big Dipper starfield produced boundless waves that continued to spread. The majestic waves engulfed all the major starfields and attracted countless spectators. This was a battle between a supreme being and a former peak starfield. It was very eye-catching. The strength of a supreme being could clash with a peak starfield. It was said that if a supreme being wielded a supreme treasure, he could threaten the life and death of a starfield. Everyone could see that if the Big Dipper starfield didn't have the Big Dipper Star Pagoda, they wouldn't be able to withstand the ancestral Hall's supreme being. The Big Dipper fairy is truly a peerless beauty. She trapped the Kuan family's divine king for several days. It's truly frightening and stunning. It's said that she's also a member of the Sky Bamboo bloodline. This matter caused great waves. Bamboo Moon's fame spread far and wide. She became a peerless young deity in the universe. Everyone could see that with her current status and identity, she would become a heavenly proud daughter whom no one dare to touch. The Big Dipper sovereign is Su Yin. There's no doubt about it. He sent the Purple Jade King flying with one slap, killed the Cosmos Business Alliance's Z-Tai, and suppressed a deity from the Sky Bamboo bloodline. Another explosive piece of news spread through the starry skies, causing an uproar among the myriad races. The experts of the major powers were all trembling. The current Su Yin could even kill a deity. There was even the Cosmos Business Alliance's Z-Tai and the Sky Bamboo's Zhu Pingyi. The impact of this matter was quite shocking. Although Su Yin had borrowed the Big Dipper Starfield's origin, there was no doubt about his strength. In addition to his previous reputation, some people felt that once Su Yin crossed over to the deity realm, he would definitely be an expert among experts. Regardless of whether it was the deity realm, the celestial realm, or the divine king, they could all be considered a realm: the deity realm, primordial realm, life spring realm, artifact building realm, Daogate realm, transcendent realm, transcendence realm, Grandao realm, and deity realm. In these 7 realms, the younger generation could even kill Empyrean gods. From this, it could be seen just how big a storm this matter had caused. Will Hokuto be able to withstand it? Under the wrath of the ancestral hall's mighty figure, there's no way he would let Hokuto off so easily. The experts of the Buried Region clan are also here. The three Divine King are fighting against the experts of the Ancestral Hall and Kuin family. I think the Ancestral Hall wants to wipe out the entire Buried Region clan. What I didn't expect was still the Kuin family. This clan declared that they wanted to become the 11th Peak clan, intimidate all clans, and occupy over 100 starry domains. Just how strong is the Kuin family? A series of news spread out. The news from the Big Dipper starfield was truly shocking. How could the various races not pay attention to it? Even some of the aristocratic families with powerful foundations were shocked. The Kuin family, who had suddenly slaughtered their way out of the primal chaos ruins, actually had such courage. This caused some of the clans to be unhappy. Who wouldn't want to become the 11th clan? But just how strong was the Kuin family's foundation that they dared to make such a statement? Of course, this battle wouldn't last for too long. However, the storm that was stirred up was incomparably fierce. The Big Dipper starfield was burning with the flames of war, and everyone could sense that the Big Dipper starfield was suffused with the aura of a giant dragon. This might suppress the sea and engulf the entire starfield. The Big Dipper starfield was flourishing with divine light, illuminating the boundless starry skies and shaking the surrounding starfields. Roar! An aura that seemed to reach the heavens rose from the ground and radiated throughout the starry seas. It was a shocking scene. A figure stood tall at the top of the Big Dipper pagoda. The moment he spat out, the vast sea of stars surged and illuminated the sky with a resplendent radiance. My sect will also become a peak clan once again. The elders of Hokuto roared incessantly. Their hearts were filled with fanaticism and excitement. A half-step Almighty had walked out from Hokuto. His aura surged into the heavens, and he looked down on everything. It was as if he had become one with the Big Dipper starfield, and his strength was surging toward the Almighty. The Big Dipper starfield was burning with the light of order. The old Star Lord stood up and almost reached the heavens with a single step. He released his greatest strength and stabilized the starfield on the verge of collapse. Then he erupted with strength to contend with the Ancestral Hall's Almighty. Is this the fate of the clan? A half-step Almighty has walked out from the moment of extinction. Is Hokuto going to prosper? Hokuto's previous Star Lord has stepped into the realm of half-step Almighty. All the clans were shocked. This was a major event that was enough to determine the current strength of Hokuto. It could be said that they were invincible below the peak clans. This was the revival of the clan's fate. The clan's might shook the universe and was glorious because of the old Star Lord. Zhu Yuanqing's expression sank. Although half-step Almighties had great authority in front of true giants, they weren't at the level where they could threaten them. It was even rumored that the Ancestral Hall had more than one Almighty. However, the Big Dipper starfield had awakened. The significance was completely different. Even a starving camel was bigger than a horse. This battle lasted day after day. No wonder the Kuin family has the confidence to confer the title of the 11th clan. I think the Kuin family has other divine kings. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made such arrogant claims. This was within expectations, but also beyond expectations. The Kuin family had produced a half-step Almighty, which demonstrated the clan's peerless foundation. 3 divine kings and a half-step Almighty. This foundation was truly terrifying. Perhaps the clan's foundation wasn't limited to just this. Big news from the depths of the universe. On this day, the entire universe's attention was focused on the Big Dipper starfield. The development of this matter was shocking. That was because something big had happened in the Ancestral Hall. Many people were saying that the Ancestral Hall's ancestral land had been attacked, and that the clan's ancestral heaven had almost been killed. Even the heavenly gods found it hard to believe that someone had almost crippled the Ancestral Hall's ancestral heaven. Who did this? Are they crazy? This is heaven-defying. Even the Ancestral Hall's ancestral heaven dared to target him. He's the strongest of the Ancestral Hall's younger generation, and is comparable to a supreme. Someone had attacked the ancestral hall, while the ancient ancestor and the heaven refining cauldron were away. This was to cripple the ancestral heaven. Some suspected that it was the other experts of the Burial Realms clan who had secretly made the move. Some suspected that it was the Pinnacle clans, and some suspected that it was the giant forces of the Chaos Ruins. This is a big event. The younger generation struggle is about to begin. The Ancestral Hall's foundation is extremely strong. The Ancestral Heaven is definitely boundless. This is to eliminate the future Supreme in advance. The general trend of the universe was closely related to the rising younger generation. If the Ancestral Hall's Ancestral Heaven was really crippled, the future Ancestral Hall's younger generation would lose the qualifications to compete with the major forces. This would have a great impact on the general trend of the universe in the future. I don't think it's the Burial Realms clan. That clan doesn't have such a strong foundation. Yeah, it's very likely to be the work of other Pinnacle clans. They are too daring to attack the Ancestral Hall's ancestral land. They probably used a supreme treasure. Otherwise, they wouldn't have succeeded. This matter caused a huge commotion. Such a big event had never happened in this universe epic. After all, the ancestral land of the Pinnacle clans was attacked, and the ancestral heaven was almost destroyed. It was unknown whether the ancestral heaven was still alive or not. The Ancestral Hall's almighty expert has retreated. The myriad races were in an uproar. The Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor, who was fighting against the Big Dipper starfield, had suddenly retreated. This meant that the problem was more serious than they had imagined. The Big Dipper starfield, which had lost the suppression of the almighty expert, had recovered its invincible foundation under the fury of the old Star Lord. Bastard! The Kuan family's half-step almighty expert's face was ashen. Could it be that their Kuan family's luck wasn't enough to stop the Big Dipper starfield? Once the almighty expert retreated, the suppression of the Big Dipper starfield would dissipate. It would be extremely difficult for the Kuan family to resist the current situation of the Big Dipper starfield. No! A miserable cry came from the Big Dipper starfield. Under the shocked gazes of everyone present, the Big Dipper pagoda recovered a portion of its power to resist the heaven refining cauldron. Yiling Tian let out a loud roar and charged forward with incomparable ferocity. He tore the Kuan family's divine king into two with his bare hands. He was bathed in the divine king's battle blood and went berserk. His roar shook the starry skies with invincible divine valor. Kill! Xiahou let out a long roar and brandished his fists. His battle aura surged into the heavens, and the starry skies seemed to explode. The divine king's strength had reached the pinnacle and possessed the potential to break through to the almighty realm. Zhu Yanhua let out a miserable cry. Only half of his body was left. If Zhu Cheng hadn't blocked Xiahou at the critical moment, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The Divine King has died in battle. The three Divine Kings of the Buried Realm are too savage. Without the Heaven Refining Cauldron, they can't stop the three furious Divine Kings. Zhu Yanhua is heavily injured, and the Big Dipper Star region's momentum has awakened. Without the control of an almighty, the Heaven Refining Cauldron can't unleash its full power. Much of its power has been suppressed by the Big Dipper Star Pagoda. The Kuan family has been completely defeated. If not for the Almighty, the Kuan family would have been wiped out because of this change. The entire Big Dipper Star region was a battlefield. Corpses were strewn across millions of miles, and rivers of blood flowed. Corpses were piled up like mountains. This is too crazy. They want to hunt down the Divine King. The three Divine Kings of the Buried Realm attacked in a savage manner and rampaged through the battlefield. They were simply three terrifying bosses who chased after the Divine King without giving up. The universe's great events had occurred. The three Divine Kings of the Buried Realm were madly chasing after the Divine King. They emitted all sorts of terrifying auras and shook the surrounding star regions. I wonder what the situation is like in the Big Dipper Star region. It's already been 10 days. So you didn't know how far he was from the Big Dipper Star region. He had traversed the space-time path and calculated the time. 10 days had already passed. This somewhat exceeded Su Yan's expectations. He had thought that a few days would be enough. Is this a seal set up by the experts of my race? Su Yan's movements became slower and slower. That was because he was traversing through the vast space-time storm. In every black space-time storm, there were some faintly discernible space-time wormholes. These were special space-time tunnels. Only by passing through the heavenly mountain could one enter the space-time wormholes. The space-time storm covered the sky and covered the sun. It was like a black flood in the universe, rolling and rippling. The path that Su Yan took was a special tunnel, but along the way he discovered that in the space-time storm there were some corpses of terrifying beasts, some weapon fragments, and even broken battleships floating in the space-time storm. Without a doubt, these corpses and weapons were unprecedentedly powerful. They must have been experts who had mistakenly entered here and were refined to death by the space-time storm. Su Yan even discovered some monster corpses that couldn't be destroyed by the space-time storm. This made him pale. The weakest of these experts should be the Divine King. It was very likely that there were also the corpses of almighty experts. In general, there were no traces of life in this black world. Moreover, Su Yan discovered space-time storms in many regions. Their auras were extremely weak. This made his heart tremble. This meant that the vast space-time storm that sealed the progenitor would slowly disappear with the passage of time. Then, even if the ancestral hall hadn't discovered it now, there would be space explorers in the future who would discover the existence of Earth. This is Chapter 662. I'm going home. Are you guys all right? Su Yan's emotions were in turmoil. He couldn't calm down for a long time. He couldn't remember how long it had been since he left Earth. However, it had been more than 10 years. He felt that it had been almost 20 years. He really wanted to know how the Huaxia Alliance had developed over the years. Su Yan turned around and looked at the starry sky. There was worry in his eyes. The universe was too vast and boundless. He felt as if he had arrived at the other end of the universe. He felt that this place was so far away from the Big Dipper Star region that it was unreachable. He didn't know how long it would take for him to return to the magnificent cultivation world. 12 days. This was the time it took Su Yan to arrive at the solar system from Heaven Mountain. 12 days. The curtains must have come to an end. Perhaps there's still a bloody battle going on. Su Yan muttered to himself. His guess was right. The bloody battle in the Big Dipper Star region had come to an end. The ancestral hall's almighty beings had retreated. The Cohen family would definitely not be able to stop the Big Dipper Star region. After all, Su Yan had brought out the Big Dipper Star Pagoda. It had given the Big Dipper Star region the foundation to resist the almighty beings. Everyone knew that the biggest change came from the Big Dipper Star Pagoda. Su Yan's reputation was growing. All of this started from Su Yan's traces. If Su Yan hadn't appeared, the Cohen family's attack on the Big Dipper Star region might have been delayed by many years. It started because of Su Yan. It ended because of Su Yan. The experts of the myriad races sighed. This legend had risen from the weak. Step by step, he created a legend and glory. In the end, he possessed strength that the world couldn't ignore. If he could even kill a heavenly god, how powerful would Su Yan be in the future? The Cohen family suffered a crushing defeat. The Cohen family's half-step almighty beings can't even stay in the Big Dipper Star region. Is the Big Dipper Star region going to prosper? With a half-step almighty being and the Big Dipper Star region's current situation, they don't have to fear the other forces in the world. That being said, the Big Dipper Star region was still a far cry from the ancestral hall. However, the Big Dipper Star region was now an overlord force below the pinnacle races. Who would dare to make an enemy of the Big Dipper Star region without almighty beings? The battle ended. The experts of the Cohen family have all fled. The Big Dipper constellation was filled with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. The smell of blood filled the air, and the world was still blood-red. It would take at least 1 or 2 years for the smell of blood to dissipate completely. Even the number of lives lost in the Big Dipper constellation was immeasurable. Many experts roared. standing in the pool of blood, emitting killing intent that rushed into the heavens. The great battle was over, but the Big Dipper Starfield's losses were also extremely disastrous. Even two great heavenly deities of the giant beast lineage had died in battle. Everyone's eyes were red. The world was filled with blood and corpses. The Big Dipper Star region seemed to have been dyed red by blood and was filled with the aura of death. After the calamity, Hokuto wasn't as excited as he had imagined. Although they had won, everyone knew that if the Ancestral Hall's mighty figures hadn't withdrawn, it would have been impossible for them to win this battle. The old Star-Lord sat cross-legged in the void. His cultivation had already stepped into the realm of a half-step mighty figure. As he breathed, the world became dark and lightless. An unparalleled aura spread out in all directions, enveloping the vast starry sky. Under his powerful attacks, the Koen family's hidden troops were killed one after another. The Koen family's retreat was extremely hasty. Many troops were left behind, unable to withdraw immediately. The Big Dipper constellation was still filled with the smell of blood. The massacre was still ongoing. Various incidents were reported from the depths of the universe. The most eye-catching one was a path of stars dyed in blood. The three divine kings of the buried region have gone mad and chased them through dozens of constellations. The Koen family's losses are extremely disastrous. A large number of heavenly deities have died, and a generation of divine king has fallen. It's said that Su Yin died in the devil fog space, causing the three divine kings of the buried region to go mad. This matter caused a huge commotion when it spread. Madman Su, whose reputation continued to soar, had fallen in the battlefield of the divine kings? It's true. It didn't take long for this news to spread, causing tens of thousands of races to tremble. It was said that the divine king of the buried region had personally said this. They felt that since Su Yin had already left, they might as well say that he had fallen and divert attention. Impossible. When the news reached the Big Dipper constellation, many experts who were recuperating lost control on the spot. Su Yin had died in the devil fog space? They didn't believe it, not in the slightest. How could senior brother have fallen? Xing Jingfu and the others were in despair. They were still looking forward to Su Yin becoming stronger in the future and leading them to seek revenge. He would lead them to flatten the Koen family and avenge their dead clansmen. But now, the news caused Shao Wen and the others to lose control. They roared continuously and couldn't believe it was true. Yuan's clenched fists were trembling as he let out bestial roars. In the end, his spiritual will was strong enough to calm him down. He felt that it wasn't quite possible. Even if Su Yin couldn't withstand it, the Tai Baokai was in charge of the banners of demons and had been hiding in Su Yan's spatial treasure all this time. After all, the demon realm was paying close attention to the Tai Baokai. It definitely couldn't appear. Once it was noticed by the demon realm experts, it would definitely bring about a great calamity. What a pity. The heavens are jealous of the heroic. Some people sighed. They felt that this matter was more likely. After all, the divine king was putting his life on the line. Su Yan's chances of survival in this storm were very slim. They even knew that the devil fog was like an abyss that devoured all life. Even the divine king had to pay a great price to survive. No matter how strong one is, they can't beat fate. Some people took joy in Su Yan's misfortune. It's good to be alive. There's nothing left after death. Everything is for naught. Only survival is the way of the king. He's finally dead. Su Yan, oh Su Yan, you can't blame others for your bad luck. I'm about to become a god, but you've already turned into ashes. The Purple Jade King couldn't stop laughing when he heard the news. Su Yan had embarrassed him greatly. If it wasn't for Zitai's death, the Purple Jade King would have been even more embarrassed. It was Zitai's matter. At present, there were very few rumors of him being sent flying by Su Yan with a single slap. After the storm, the various galaxies in the universe were abuzz with discussion. First of all, the Big Dipper galaxy could no longer be ignored. This race had produced a half-step supreme expert, and the structure of the galaxy had returned to the previous era. However, the storm of Su Yan's death was suppressed by another matter. Zhu Tian almost died. The information is accurate. The various tribes were frightened when they heard the news. Even a Nine-Yong sect sent experts to visit. Their intentions were clear. It was as if they were saying that it wasn't them. It definitely wasn't them. According to the leaked news, Zhu Tian's injuries were very severe and he almost died. It was a big problem for him to recover from such serious injuries. The Ancestral Hall would definitely pay a huge price for this. However, the question was, would there be any side effects? Who is the crazy one who attacked the strongest of the Ancestral Hall's younger generation? Are they not afraid of being annihilated? Even if it was a pinnacle tribe, the Ancestral Hall wouldn't let it go easily. I don't think it's the tribe of the burial region. That tribe wouldn't have such a strong foundation. It's said that the other party even took out a supreme artifact. There were very few tribes that had supreme artifacts. It was already considered good if 3 or 4 of the top 10 pinnacle tribes had supreme artifacts. Of course, there were also some giants in the Chaos Ruins who had supreme artifacts, such as the Sky Bamboo tribe. Many of the Ancestral Hall's experts still had lingering fears. Fortunately, the Ancestral Hall's foundation was strong enough to block the supreme artifact. Otherwise, Zhu Tian might have died. It seems like the Chaos Ruins are really about to open. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a competition. Some of the younger generation didn't know what the Chaos Ruins represented. Many things about the Chaos Ruins were spread out. After all, the Chaos Ruins were very close to opening. Although anyone can enter the Chaos Ruins, there is a terrifying pressure in the Chaos Ruins. Only when the end of the era arrives and the Chaos Ruins revive on their own will some secret realms be opened. There are too many precious resources in these secret realms. There are even many kinds of lost legacies and lost secret arts in history. Of course, these are all secondary. The most important thing is that there are some damaged universes. Although they are terrifying and frightening, there are fortunes that even almighty experts would covet. Of course, these damaged universes are extremely dangerous. Only with a young paragon leading the way can one kill their way in. No wonder the young overlords of the various star fields would follow young paragons and even paragons. So it's all for this day. You're right. It's indeed for the sake of fighting for fortune. The young supreme beings from the various stellar regions are surging towards the chaotic ruins, and in the end, the strongest battles and collisions will be carried out. Just think about it, and you'll know how magnificent that would be. These words caused the blood of the younger generation to boil. Who didn't want to spread their fame throughout the universe? Who didn't want to kill their way into an unparalleled glory? Who wouldn't want to sit on a vast territory and conquer a powerful race? But this was too difficult. The Chaos Ruins was an opportunity. There were supreme treasures and inheritances that people yearned for even in their dreams. Su Yin is strong, but his fame hasn't spread to the Chaos Ruins yet. It's a pity that Su Yin fell in such a battlefield, but it's a fact that the races of the burial realm have declined. Even the 3 Divine King can't stop the Ancestral Hall. No wonder Zhu Tian took action. I think all the major powers are preparing for this battle. They are preparing to fight for the future of the universe. That's right. The peak races also have the possibility of declining. The prerequisite is that their younger generation must be destroyed. The various star fields of the universe were abuzz with discussion. Now, the younger generation was advancing to the Grand Tao realm. Some were even charging towards the deity realm. And the Chaos Ruins were hailed as the Tao grounds with the strongest cultivation of divine essence. This was a paradise that even the peak races couldn't give them. But the Chaos Ruins had it. Hence, the Chaos Ruins were too important to the various races. Factions like the Ancestral Hall had resource lands in the Chaos Ruins, but they weren't large. This was because the Chaos Ruins were too difficult to explore. Most of the universe's experts were gathered in the Chaos Ruins, and it was said that the Chaos Ruins were even larger than the entire universe. The various major powers wanted to investigate the Ancestral Hall situation, but everything related to Zhu Tian was secretly sealed. Some people felt that Zhu Tian's situation wasn't good. If Zhu Tian could stand up, the Ancestral Hall definitely wouldn't. The entire ancestral hall was depressed. They all felt that they had lost this battle. They never thought that there would be a faction that would kill their way here and target the ancestral hall's ancestral land. This made the ancestral hall, a lion, emit terrifying flames of anger. Over the years, bad things had happened one after another. And the most serious thing was that Su Yin, who the ancestral hall's ancestor was thinking about, had died in the Big Dipper. Is this still Earth? Why do I feel that Earth is many times bigger than before? Moreover, the essence energy of this world seems to be very vigorous. It's not inferior to a supreme ancient planet. In a distant part of the universe, Su Yin stepped on the ancient space-time path and charged forward. He even had the strength to leave the ancient space-time path. He thought to himself. His heart was surging with emotions and full of anticipation as he charged toward Earth. Chapter 663. Su Yin rushed towards Earth, his long hair fluttering behind his head. When he was infinitely close to Earth, he had already sensed the vigorous life essence flowing between heaven and Earth. This shocked Su Yin. The life essence was not only vigorous, but also extremely pure, without any impurities. Normally, such pure heaven and earth essence could only be found in a small world that had been sealed for many years. Cultivating by breathing the heaven and earth essence all year round would reduce the impurities in one's body, which would be of great help to one's future cultivation. Of course, what shocked Su Yin the most was the richness of the heaven and earth essence on Earth. He estimated that the richness was not inferior to that of a supreme ancient life planet. Once the news spread, it would attract the attention of many races. This was because Earth's cultivation environment was not inferior to that of some small star fields. If the traces of Earth were leaked, it would definitely attract experts to fight for Earth. Even the Divine King would stand out. After all, the significance was different. This ancient life planet had just awakened 100 years ago. The changes on Earth were huge. Just as Su Yin was about to rush into the ocean, he realized that an extremely terrifying binding force had emerged from Earth, quietly suppressing the great Tao energy in Su Yin's body. The suppression of the heaven and earth environment. The suppression of the heaven and earth environment from Earth has suppressed my realm to the transcendence realm. Su Yin was shocked. He felt that this suppression was very domineering. This meant that Earth's environment was very strong. Even the gods would be suppressed. However, Su Yin was not sure if it could suppress the Divine King. As for suppressing the Almighty, Su Yin felt that it was really hard to speculate. Normally, a newly awakened ancient life planet would not be able to suppress the gods because the gods were too terrifying and could suppress the entire ancient life planet. However, Earth's performance was especially amazing. Even though he was in the transcendence realm, Su Yin's aura was strong enough. He escaped into Earth and fell into the ocean. This vast sea region returned to peace amidst the turmoil. Many sea beasts trembled and secretly went into hibernation. Although Su Yin's realm had been suppressed, they felt that this expert who had descended from the sky was rather terrifying. So terrifying. Who is this young man? His aura is too frightening. I just stepped into the Dharma characteristic realm, but I feel like an ant in front of him. The Sea Beast King in this area was terrified. It could already speak in human language, and it said with a trembling voice, "Look at his appearance. There are wounds and bloodstains on his body, and his aura is still so strong even though he's injured. I know the experts of the Huaxia Alliance and the Western Alliance, but I've never seen this young man before." In the era when Su Yin left Earth, the highest level of cultivation on Earth was still in the Taoist realm. Su Yin's enormous divine will swept through this sea region, and all the creatures that were swept by it trembled and shivered. Why did they feel as if an ancient expert had descended into this world and was filled with an enormous pressure that made them want to submit under Su Yin's feet? I didn't expect that the cultivation speed of the sea beasts on Earth would be so fast. It's all thanks to the heaven and earth essence chi. Moreover, the laws of Earth's birth are very clear. It's relatively easy to comprehend and advance into the Dharma characteristic realm. Su-Yin thought to himself. Although his primordial spirit was suppressed, Su-Yan's cultivation was extremely powerful. He could even kill deities in the Great Tao realm. Even if Su-Yan's combat strength was suppressed, he still had many abilities that he could use. Su-Yin had arrived on Earth for less than 10 breaths. He estimated that Earth's value was too terrifying. It could be used as a place to nurture geniuses or a place to mold them. To the peak races, it was equivalent to an extremely terrifying mystic realm. Earth must not be exposed. I have to think of a way to move Earth. At the very least, I have to hide Earth in space to avoid a possible calamity. Although the primordial spirit of the ancestral hall's expert, who they thought had died halfway, was still alive, it was still a big problem whether the ancestral hall could find this person or even get close to Earth. It was just a possibility. Even if the ancestral hall really knew the location of the back progenitor, they would still need a lot of time to find this place. Let's go to the Huaxia Alliance first. Su-Yin crossed the sea. Although his cultivation was suppressed to the transcendence realm, Su-Yin was proficient in all kinds of profoundness, especially the profoundness of space-time. He could still cross the sea with Earth shrink and disappear at the end of the sea with a few steps. After a long time, the group of trembling sea beasts came back to their senses. A black leopard stammered, "What kind of ancient divine ability is that?" He disappeared in this sea with a few steps. "We can't lock onto his location." "Idiot, this kind of person isn't someone we can provoke." The king of this group of black fish was a huge shark. He shouted coldly, looking at his direction and appearance. He should be going to the Huaxia Alliance. "Master, should we report this to the Western Alliance?" The seal mustered up its courage and asked, "I feel that with this person's strength, this is valuable information. The Western Alliance will definitely be very interested." Hearing this, the big shark hesitated for a moment and said, "I think it's better to report it. This person's cultivation is very powerful, but the mysterious experts of the Western Alliance also seem very terrifying." The sea was vast, and the number of sea beasts was immeasurable. Many powerful sea beasts were bribed by the Western Alliance to help them monitor the experts of the Huaxia Alliance. Moreover, they controlled a lot of space in the sea and controlled the cultivation materials in the sea. The big shark had cultivated to the transcendence realm and had a high status in the sea. It had received some information that the Western Alliance was preparing to attack the Huaxia Alliance and wanted to swallow the entire Huaxia Alliance. It was very clear that there were serious internal problems in the Huaxia Alliance. The entire Western Alliance was restless, and a war might break out one day. When that time came, there would probably be a big reshuffle on Earth. Although the spiritual chi of heaven and Earth was very rich, there were still few resources, especially rare resources and minerals. They were even scattered on the islands in the sea. These were all resources that the two alliances had to fight for. As time passed, the friction between the two alliances had caused the flames of war. The sea was also rich in resources. Su-Yin crossed the sea and passed by some islands. He found that there were spiritual treasures of heaven and earth on the islands, and there were mineral veins underground. He also saw many large ships sailing on the sea, transporting resources back to the mainland. Although Earth's spiritual chi is rich, it hasn't formed mineral veins of a certain amount. It needs time to settle before precious ores can be formed. However, Earth's potential is huge. In a few decades, it will definitely be a huge resource secret realm. Moreover, who said that Earth can't continue to awaken? Su-Yin thought in his heart. Mineral veins were indispensable resources. They could be used to forge weapons, build cities and fortresses, and make pills. If Earth wanted to build and develop in the future, mineral veins were essential resources. He also saw that under the nourishment of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, the soil was becoming more fertile, and herbs were beginning to grow. Some of the herbs were even 1,000-year-old herbs, and these resources could be used to make pills. There were even special spiritual springs on some islands. Essence leaked out from the ground, forming a rare spiritual liquid that could be used to aid cultivation or to make pills. Earth hasn't given birth to a great Tao. If a great Tao is born, then the divine energy of heaven and earth will continue to soar. When that time comes, the mineral veins and resources will be cooked. Suyin thought in his heart, wasn't this a treasure trove? It was extremely important for a tribe. After all, he knew that some of the strong tribes in the universe didn't have a cultivation environment like Earth. But when would Earth's great Tao be born? Looks like there's a CI here. Suyan's face was full of smiles. Xiaoho and the rest would be very happy if they knew that the posterior progenitor could evolve to such a state. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth rolled and boiled on the surface of the sea like a tide. Suyan took a deep breath. His body glowed, and divine clouds gushed out from his pores. It was exuberant like a small sun rising at the end of the sea. The golden light on the surface of the sea was dazzling and blazing, illuminating the entire sea. The birth of a treasure. This part of the sea was in chaos. Many sea beasts rushed to their destination. Just now, no one saw that a person was cultivating. The divine light that was released formed a strange scene, causing them to mistakenly think that it was traces of the birth of a treasure. Su Yin was already close to the land. From afar, he could see huge ships docked at the coastal port, excavated from ancient ruins. Su Yin secretly said in his heart. Some of the ancient ships were full of ancient aura. The hull was hard and couldn't be broken easily. Even the masters of the divine realm would find it difficult to break the hull. Of course, there were very few of these ancient ships. They were the treasures of the Huaxia Alliance. After all, crossing the sea would inevitably face the attacks of sea beasts. Therefore, these ancient warships were the most precious assets of the Huaxia Alliance. The resources transported from the sea every year were uncountable. Hey, there's a small city built here. Su Yan's eyes were filled with surprise. In the past, the Huaxia Alliance only had one Huaxia city and 10 bases. But now there was a city built on the coast. The city covered an area of about 20 miles. The walls made of steel were tall, exuding a cold metallic luster, giving people a sense of oppression. There were many guards patrolling at the gate. Su Yin realized that these guards were all cultivators of the Tao Gate realm and the Divine Ability realm. If it was more than 10 years ago, these cultivators would be extremely famous experts. But now, they could only serve as guards. Just thinking about it made one realize how fast the Huaxia Alliance had developed. Su Yin entered the city. The buildings had their own characteristics. There were ancient buildings, modern buildings, and a combination of ancient and modern buildings. There were many residents in the city. Su Yin quietly explored and covered the entire city. He found that in the Huaxia Alliance, everyone could awaken. There were many cultivators of the Life Spring realm. There were also many cultivators of the Tao Gate realm and Divine realm. Of course, there were relatively few cultivators of the Transcendence realm. He only found 5 cultivators of the Transcendence realm in this city. However, this was only a small city. It was already very fast to cultivate to this level after more than 10 years. The main reason was that there were no masters on Earth to guide them. So, there was only the inheritance space of the strongest tower of trials. Time can really change a lot. Su Yin smacked his lips and recalled many things in the past. He didn't know how his friends were now. More than 10 years ago, the Huaxia Alliance was in a huge crisis. From a change of the Ancestral Hall to the invasion of aliens, a series of major events. Although more than 10 years had passed, it was often mentioned and recorded in the history of the new era. Chapter 664. 10 years wasn't a long time, but it wasn't short either. Ever since the Huaxia Alliance's overall cultivation level gradually increased, the average lifespan had skyrocketed, and even the terrifying destructive power of Transcendence Realm cultivators was clear to the cultivators that 10 years was too short. However, the alien invasion from 10 years ago had become a textbook content. Their descendants were told from a young age that Earth wasn't safe. There were terrifying groups of races in the universe that were watching Earth. If Earth wasn't strong enough, it would face enslavement in the future. After all, What happened that day was unforgettable for many veterans. The top 10 young cultivators from the Ancestral Hall went on a killing spree on Earth, slaughtering many of Earth's powerhouses. Although those dead powerhouses were nothing to them now, there were still other ancient planets with life in the universe. There was no doubt about this. When did you return to Earth? Bao Kai quietly woke up and shouted in the space treasure, Earth has changed a lot. Quickly go to the mausoleum of the first Qin Emperor and move the treasures inside. You're finally awake. Su Yin was helpless. The panda that was thinking about the treasures must be completely awake. Su Yin let Bao Kai out of the space treasure. It had been groggy during this period. Ever since the banners of demons exploded in the Yin-Yang Road, Bao Cai's condition was not good. It was always in a deep sleep. Today, Bao Kai finally woke up. This period of time was like a dream. It had gained a lot and had a better understanding of the banners of demons. It always felt that it was a part of the banners of demons. Bao Kai raised its head and looked around. It was very excited. It thought that with the current cultivation level on Earth, it would be an overlord on Earth no matter what. It would become the king of the demon race on Earth and rule over thousands of demons. Bao Kai was silent in its dream. The passers-by pointed at it. Some young men and women even screamed, "Look, it's a panda!" The street was in an uproar. Many people crowded over to watch. Some even took out their cameras and hurriedly took pictures. They said excitedly, "I heard from Grandpa that there was a panda more than 10 years ago. It was the guardian beast of the Huaxiao Alliance." The prestige of the Tai Bao Kai was still passed down, and many old people called it the guardian beast of the Huaxiao Alliance. Su Yin slightly frowned. Right now, he didn't want to be exposed so quickly. He wanted to stand in the dark and see how the Huaxiao Alliance was developing or if there were any problems. Where's the giant panda? More and more people rushed over from afar. Some of the older people were especially excited. More than 10 years ago, there was a giant panda in the Huaxiao Alliance who used the banners of demons to command a group of demons. It had contributed a lot to the fight against the aliens. It's already gone. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. It disappeared without a trace. I don't know how that giant panda got in. This city forbids Yao cultivators from entering. Yeah, that's really a giant panda. I'm definitely not mistaken. I saw it in a textbook back then. Although it looked a little different from this giant panda, overall, it looks almost exactly the same. There was a lot of discussion on the street. Su Yin and the Tai Bao Kai were too fast. They had already disappeared without a trace. Some people sent the photo to their friends through communication devices, causing a huge commotion. This photo quickly spread across the entire Huaxiao Alliance. The convenience of online communication continued to be. This photo quickly became popular. It was all because of the Tai Bao Kai from more than 10 years ago. Some people even called it the guardian beast of the Huaxiao Alliance. Even the appearance of the giant panda shocked the higher-ups of the Huaxiao Alliance. God of War Su Yin, a name that had disappeared for more than 10 years, appeared in their minds. More than 10 years had passed, and some people had almost forgotten about Su Yin. Now, this person's name was like a bomb that made them recall. Back then, the God of War Su Yin rose like a comet in the sky. He killed Tao Tianhua and destroyed Jiangwuan. Even the God of War Zu Yin, who had been deceived by them for more than 10 years, was killed by Su Yin. When the aliens invaded, the God of War, Su Yin, single-handedly killed the alien experts who once made them tremble in fear. In the end, he reversed the situation and completely quelled the chaos in the Huaxiao Alliance. That day, Su Yin was majestic. He was hailed as the strongest God of War by the Huaxiao Alliance. However, he had already been gone for more than 10 years, including the God of War, Yi Yuan, and the Tai Bao Kai. The three of them left together. Many people who knew the inside story couldn't help but sigh and stare at this photo nonstop. Master, the people who took the photo and released it probably didn't expect it to cause a huge earthquake in the upper echelons of the Huaxiao Alliance. Many powerful experts in the Huaxiao Alliance lost their composure and were lost in their memories for a long time. For example, the Bai family was very prominent now and had a very high status in the Huaxiao Alliance. Bai Minjing of the Bai family was a peerless beauty of the Huaxiao Alliance and was now the master of the Bai family. She was over 30 years old. She no longer had the immaturity of the past. She was even more beautiful and noble now. Her black clothes wrapped around her voluptuous, snow-white body. Who knew how many suitors she had right now? But she was still unmarried. Bai Minjing had already cultivated to the 7th level of the Transcendence realm and was one of the top experts in the Huaxiao Alliance. She stared at the photo in a daze and finally murmured, "It's not that panda," some of the elders of the Bai family sighed. Bai Minjing and Su Yin were once fated, but because of Teng Yingjie, they were cut off. The reason why the Bai family had developed so quickly in the past 10 years was because of Bai Minjing and Su Yin. Old Lei, could it really be that he's back? The commotion caused by Huaxia University was huge. Many of the young experts in the school were Su Yan's junior brothers back then. The current dean of the Huaxiao Alliance was Lei Lao. Back then, he had realized his mistake and turned back. His cultivation had skyrocketed, and he was even more valiant and domineering. His eyes were like sharp silver lightning as he stared at the photo. Lei Lao was already an expert at the 9th level of the Transcendence realm. His life force was vigorous, and he said in a low voice, "This panda is a little different from the type Baokai back then. Maybe it really is him." Someone said in a trembling voice, "Could it be that Su Yin really came back from the universe?" Hearing this, Lei Lao shook his head slightly. "It's difficult. Back then, when Su Yin and Yi Yuan left, they jumped through the universe through the starry sky, array to leave Earth. They didn't know the coordinates of Earth at all. Also, the universe is too vast. There are countless races and experts. Although Su Yin and the others left for the universe back then, in the vast starry sky, it is as difficult as ascending to the heavens to break through. The competitive environment is 1,000,000 times crueler than Earth's." The experts in the hall sighed. Even if Su Yin came back, it would be useless. After all, Su Yin's cultivation level back then was similar to theirs. Even if Su Yin was heaven-defying, he couldn't be that strong. Of course, in the past 10 years, the Huaxiao Alliance had produced many talented disciples. Many of them had reached the Transcendence realm. This was all thanks to Earth's environment. The spiritual essence of the Snow Mountain was even more terrifying, so Earth's development was very fast. Of course, Lei Lao and the others knew that the Huaxiao Alliance was most proud of the strongest training grounds. The strongest trial ground would set up the conditions and resources for each challenger. It was the same as a master of cultivation, constantly supplying fresh blood to Earth. Lei Lao and the others knew that even so, if Earth wanted to catch up and become a great power in the universe, it would take at least 1,000 years of accumulation. This was only the shortest amount of time. In the past few years, through excavating ancient ruins and exploring the strongest training grounds, they had learned many things about the universe. This was all top-secret information of the Alliance that had never been leaked. Once it was leaked, it would cause panic on Earth. It was better to continue developing like this. After all, Earth was too small in the universe. In this world, there really were gods. They could see how terrifying and frightening such existences were from ancient books. The Western Alliance has gone too far. Divine Forest Island is clearly in the Huaxiao Alliance's sea region, but they actually shamelessly claim that it's their territory. Lu Qingtian angrily said. He had cultivated to the 7th layer of the Transcendence realm and was the #1 alchemist in the Huaxiao Alliance. He could already refine peak grade 5 pills. Divine Forest Island was very special. Lu Qingtian was even prepared to open a training ground there. That was because the Divine Forest Island was filled with plants and spiritual herbs. There were even many precious fruits growing on it. After comparing it with the various treasures excavated from the ancient ruins, Lu Qingtian confirmed that the Divine Forest Island was currently the most valuable island discovered on Earth. This was very important to the Huaxiao Alliance. In the future, Divine Forest Island would become one of the strongest resource areas in the Huaxiao Alliance. Why didn't the Western Alliance discover their ambitions back then? Lei Lao was furious. Damn it, they treated Baokai like God back then. Why didn't they let Baokai destroy them? In the past few years, the Western Alliance had been invading their resource secret realms. The main battlefield was in the sea region. Although there was no large-scale war, they knew that this day would come soon. The Huaxia Alliance was strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. Otherwise, the Huaxia Alliance wouldn't have to fear the Western Alliance. We should postpone the conflict with the Western Alliance, a young expert suggested. The Western Alliance had developed too quickly in the past few years. This made him feel very uneasy. He always felt that the Western Alliance had secrets that no one knew. No, if we give up on Divine Forest Island, the Western Alliance will build a military base on our doorstep. It's the same as setting up cannons at our door. We can't back down. Lei Lao directly rejected. They want to stall for time. However, the more they delayed, the more the Western Alliance would take advantage of them. This would be very disadvantageous to the overall situation. Now, many people in the Huaxia Alliance were discussing the panda. After all, it was related to the Tai Baokai from more than 10 years ago. Why are you running so fast? What threat can Earth pose? The Baokai was very unhappy. It wanted to take a stroll, but it didn't expect Su Yin to take it away. Hearing this, Su Yin said, I crossed the sea region to the mainland and found that many islands in the sea region were occupied by the Western Alliance. The Western Alliance can overturn the heavens? The Baokai was surprised. It wanted to swim over and suppress the Western Alliance. Those who are not of our race must have different intentions. A cold light flashed in Su Yan's eyes. The Western Alliance was very weak in the past. Now that they have developed so quickly, there must be something going on. After we are done with the Huaxia Alliance, we will go and take a look at the Western Alliance. The Baotsai's eyes lit up. Maybe the Western Alliance had some special treasures. Let's go and take a look at Emperor Qin's mausoleum, the Baokai urged. They still didn't know what kind of treasure they had obtained in Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Moreover, Su Yan's broken cauldron was obtained from Emperor Qin's mausoleum. The 49 dragon pillars were definitely the most precious treasures of the mystic sect. They had to get their hands on it. It would become the strongest killing weapon of the Huaxia Alliance. He recalled that when he recognized the broken cauldron, it said that his bloodline was transcendent bloodline. Su Yan had always been curious. What kind of bloodline did his 9-colored blood belong to? Baokai, don't you think it's time to tell me where you came from? Su Yan suddenly asked. The first time the Baokai appeared was in Emperor Qin's mausoleum. At that time, he was almost fooled by the Baokai. Now that he thought about it, his face was a little dark. At the same time, he became more serious about Baotsai's origin. Hearing this, the excited Baokai suddenly became mute. After a moment of silence, it said, You will know when you get there,